Thank you. Just waiting for the dawn of 6 p.m.
Norman is on the Zoom.
Is there fun?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Oops, sorry. All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Where's my script? See that? The meeting of the Hopkins Select Board is being held both in person and remotely using the video conference platform Zoom. I believe Irfan will be joining us later, and at that point, if he does, we will confirm that he's able to hear us and that we can hear him. And if he is remote, we will do our votes by roll call vote as required. I should check, Mr. Khumalo, can you hear us? Mr. Khumalo is also remote tonight.
Loud and clear. Thank you. Good evening.
Great, and we can hear you. Thank you.
Is he downstairs or is that a fake background?
Yeah, it's a fake background.
Fake background, that's
Yeah.
funny. Okay.
Yes.
All right, I move that we enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to consider strategy with respect to negotiations with the fire and dispatch unions, my goodness, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 2, to consider strategy with respect to contract negotiations with non-union personnel, the fire chief, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 6, to consider the purchase, lease, sale, or value of real estate in relation to properties in the vicinity of Town Hall and South Street, property comprising part of the Elmwood 3 subdivision development, 0 Hayden Road, Colella property, 0 Spring Street, McDonough property, and parcels owned by Umina off Chestnut Street because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the board, approval of executive session minutes, and to allow Norman Khumalo and Elaine Lazarus to participate in the executive session, and to then reconvene an open session at the conclusion of executive session. Could I have a second?
So moved.
Okay. And is Irfan not on the Zoom?
Not yet.
All those in, oh, we have to do it by roll call anyway. Roll call vote, Mary Jo?
Mary Jo Lefreniere, yes.
Amy Rodabush, yes.
Shadul Manan, yes.
Muriel Kramer, yes. We will be back at the conclusion of executive session.
Didn't join.
Okay, thank you. We are starting, ladies and gentlemen. I did forget at the beginning of the meeting to announce that the meeting is being recorded, and I do need to say that. And with this great showing in the room, I hope our first event is a good one. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we go to our first agenda item, I do have an announcement on behalf of the board and the town. To start, I want to make sure that we start this meeting by saying to the survivor at the center of this story that we are sorry. We, all of us on the board, those representing town government, our attorneys, and the police chief are deeply sorry for the inappropriate disclosure of sensitive information included in the documents that were not fully or appropriately redacted. We are deeply sorry for all that you have unfairly had to confront, including a regrettable contribution to your burden. Words alone are never enough, but we still offer them as we seek to do what is right and to make amends. I wish to tell you and the public that every single member of the town's team is reviewing our own actions, the actions of our colleagues, and our existing processes in this matter and matters like it. We must be guided both by the necessary humility to question and reflect on our own actions and by an unflagging commitment to fix what went wrong. You can be assured that we are doing just that. Doing the work and making sure this never happens again is foremost on our minds, as well as rightly holding ourselves and others accountable as needed in meaningful ways, including but not limited to correcting processes and requiring any necessary or relevant training or retraining. We value your safety and your privacy. This breach is devastating and inexcusable. We will correct our processes. We hope to provide any needed supports to help repair for the harm we caused, and we are deeply sorry for adding to your pain. Words are simply inadequate, but we offer this apology with deep sincerity. Okay, so our first order of business is our public forum. Residents are invited to share ideas, opinions, or ask questions regarding town government. We do ask that people do their best to keep their comments to about 2 minutes. So I imagine, yes, sir, please start us up. If you could start with your name and address, that's all.
My name is Timothy Boyven, and I live at 41 Pinecrest Village in Hopkinton. I am here tonight, yes, in support of Sergeant Timothy Brennan, but even more importantly, in support of the survivor in this case. My wife and I are personal friends of her family. The morning after the Loudermill hearing, I received a frantic text message from the survivor's mother that the police chief had outed her in a release that included the transcript of Sergeant Brennan's interview with Kroll. I immediately downloaded the document that included that personal identifying information, or PII, and sent an email at 10:30 a.m. to the town select board group email stating how disappointing it was that the town saw fit to let the police chief release such information. This information included the victim's first name, town of residence, date of birth, school, major, and profession, as well as her young son's date of birth and the time frame of her young daughter's date of birth. I let the board know how mortified the survivor's mother was at this information being released. I assumed that it would be immediately removed from the town's website. Instead, it remained there until Sunday. To this day, not a single member of the select board has responded to that email. The victim's family has been living in fear for a year now. One of the key protections that rape survivors are granted under Massachusetts state law is that their identities and other PII is not released to the public prior to any trial. The town continues to fail the survivor every single step of the way. And it also failed other potential child victims by not informing the Blackstone Valley Regional High School that the coach of their girls' soccer team was under investigation for raping a child. At the very least, as a term of his suspension, Deputy Porter should have been required by the police chief and select board to not have any interactions with underage children. None of that happened, and yet now you want to fire Sergeant Brennan? Any victim of sexual assault is now going to be apprehensive about placing any trust in the Hopkinton Police Department, and rightly so. The survivor has shared with me how horribly she feels that this has caused such pain and suffering for the family of Sergeant Brennan. She cannot speak publicly because of the ongoing legal issues, but be assured that you have viciously re-victimized this courageous survivor in a very public manner and continue to make matters only much, much worse for her, Sergeant Brennan, and any other sexual assault victims now and in the future. I appreciate your apology, but you should all be ashamed.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to remind people that we try not to have outbursts of emotion. I get it. I get it. I'm just going to remind people to do their best. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Sure.
So I'm here to speak on behalf of Tim Brennan as well. I knew him in the capacity.
I'm sorry, Matt. You have to say your name and address.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And is this on?
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm Matt Peters from 13 Valleywood Road in Hopkinton. And I have known Tim for about 6 years as the Scoutmaster for Troop 4 in Hopkinton. And during that time, we ran a very large program of about 50 to 60 scouts with about 10 to 14 assistant scoutmasters and about that many committee members, adult committee members as well. We try to put on a very rigorous program with the intent of teaching character to young boys. This is not easy. You don't teach character by preaching it. You teach it by living it. You can't teach character by saying, come learn character. You teach it by having them go on outings, adventures, high adventures, tough outings. We would go camping each month, then a week of summer camp, and then a week or two of high adventure. This is critically important to that character teaching. When I go on those high adventures, I have my choice of what Scoutmaster I take with me. I chose Tim Brennan. I chose Tim because of his character. His first outing was an 85-mile canoe trip in Maine. He said, Matt, I've never canoed. And I said, you're missing the point.
You are approaching 2 minutes. I'm just letting you know.
Second was circumnavigating, sailing around the Virgin Islands. And at the start of that trip, I said, Tim, I trust you. If there is an accident and I have to leave and go to a hospital, I know you can handle this and that you will be the man that I want there. If I have to send you to the hospital and you get COVID, because this is the middle of COVID, I know you will do that and sacrifice your time. When I pick someone from Hopkinton to teach, live, embody the character that I want to teach young men, it was Tim Brennan.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Paula Garland, and I live at 50 Downey Street. And I would like to ask you on the board, what kind of mental health help has the town offered the victim, her family, Tim Brennan, his family? Any?
It's not a rhetorical thing. You can have your statement, ma'am.
I'll go ahead and answer that. None whatsoever. And I have something else to say. In his role as a public servant, Tim made a compassionate decision to respect and protect the victim of a heinous crime. This seems to be lost on this board, with the exception of you. You have watched as both the town attorney and the police chief distorted the facts and tried to unfairly lay blame on Sergeant Brennan for the vetting of former Deputy Chief Porter, when that responsibility lies squarely with Chief Bennett. It has nothing to do with Sergeant Brennan. That's what I had to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, you know what, I think I saw you. Okay, go ahead.
My name is Sue Hadley. I'm at 4 Hayden Row Street. I'd like to start off with a comment regarding Officer Brennan's character, as the gentleman before me has just spoken much of. He has an unblemished and exemplary service record. He is well-liked and respected by students, parents, and community members alike. And I am very grateful that he was the school resource officer and active in the police department while my 4 children were in the school system. As the school resource officer, his priority was the safety and well-being of the students. And a huge part of that role is to develop a rapport with the students. The victim trusted Officer Brennan enough to contact him 13 years after this alleged assault, when she was already an adult. Now, I understand that Officer Brennan did not follow proper reporting procedures, but I felt like he was in a very difficult situation. And he made a compassionate decision to honor and respect the victim's request by not doing so. This policy violation is not the type of issue that should cost Officer Brennan his job after 20 years of dedicated service to the town. And I urge you to keep him on the police force. Sergeant Brennan is an asset to this community of Hopkinton. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Karen?
Good evening. I'm Karen Webb. I live at 5 Huckleberry Road. Ladies and gentlemen of the Select Board, you have a responsibility to the town of Hopkinton. You are elected to serve us, and you have a responsibility to the residents of Hopkinton. Responsibility, it's an important word. It infers a sense of duty to whom we serve. It infers doing the right thing. Sergeant Tim Brennan has been a loyal and responsible Hopkinton public servant for over 20 years, with an unblemished and exemplary service record. He has served this community probably for longer than any of you. I've known Tim for nearly 20 years. He's taught me RAD, Rape Aggression Defense Training. He's taught my daughter RAD, and both my son and daughter tactics for protecting themselves. One of the key takeaways from RAD is to stand by each other, to keep an eye out for your peers, to make sure you protect one another. It's part of survival. Have any of your children taken these courses? Have you? In his role as public servant, Tim made a compassionate decision to respect and protect the victim of a heinous crime allegedly committed at the hands of former Deputy Chief of Police. He has a responsibility to her, just as you all have a responsibility to her, and you still do, to protect her and respect her decisions. He did the right thing by the victim. It was not for you to reveal her identity, whether done maliciously, callously, out of sheer ignorance or stupidity. You had a responsibility to her, just as Sergeant Brennan had a responsibility to her. The unprecedented motion for termination
Karen.
requested by the Chief of Police,
Just telling you, you're coming up.
in my opinion, has been shown to be vindictive, my opinion, and a personal act where a minor policy violation is being used as justification for penalizing Sergeant Brennan for protecting this victim to whom he had a moral responsibility. Why do I think this? The Kroll report lists infractions for policies that weren't even in place at the time, infractions that should be resolved with a brief suspension or a letter of reprimand.
I do need you.
But it's not. It's payback time for Tim supporting a victim who outed the chief's friend. Let me cut to the chase. The board has a responsibility to be fair and equitable, not to make up your mind, write a prepared statement before all of the evidence is presented. That's unconscionable to me. It certainly wasn't fair. And again, by any other reason, I think that it's payback time and doing the bidding for the chief. Members of the Select Board, you have an obligation and a responsibility to this town to do the right thing, to see the forest for the trees, to see the bigger picture.
I do need you to finish, Karen.
This was a policy violation, and again, it wasn't a criminal offense like the ones Deputy Chief Porter is facing. You have a moral obligation to do the right thing and retain Sergeant Tim Brennan as a member of the Hopkinton Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Jim Stukel, 68 Pine Island Road. Ladies and gentlemen of the Select Board, good people are hard to find. As a business owner here in Hopkinton and a resident of 25 years, I know the importance of good people. We look for people who are not only qualified and skilled for the work they're going to do, but possess character, passion, commitment, and values of our company and our culture. They show up to work ready to go, don't complain, have a positive attitude, and never give up regardless of the obstacle. These people are hard to find. Sergeant Tim Brennan is one of those people. Qualified, skilled, has character, which you'll hear tonight, passion, commitment, and shares the values of our community. He is our community. He's part of our community. He has served our community for over 20 years, and again, as pointed out, has an unblemished record, an exemplary service. He's known and loved by most kids and parents in this town as a mentor, a friend, a great family man, and an excellent officer. Based on his training and expertise, he made a difficult decision to respect and protect a victim of a heinous crime, as pointed out, rather than expose the victim against her wishes. This is not an act of selfishness by Officer Brennan, but an act of compassion and understanding. Tim was not thinking of himself. I'm sure he struggled with all the implications of what he decided to do. He was thinking on how to help this young girl and then mature woman to deal with actions of a person who used his power of the badge to take advantage of her.
Coming up on 2.
You got it. It was not Officer Brennan who took advantage of her. It was Officer Brennan who offered her his confidence and a lifeline to deal with what is happening. Chief Bennett's responsibility was to create an environment where his department and his officers felt confident and confidentiality. He failed to do that. The recent leaking of the victim's survivor name by Chief Bennett and Ms. Ritterbusch is exactly what Officer Brennan feared may happen, particularly when the assailant was a prominent member of the police department.
I do need you to wrap up, sir.
The actions of the past few days underscore and support Officer Brennan's decision to protect the victim and respect her wishes. You offer an apology and that we're going to do better by breaking the law. You broke the law, you exposed the victim, and all you offer is an apology and a promise to do better. And yet, Officer Brennan had a tactical or a minor infraction, and you want to take away his ability to feed his family and do the things that he's passionate about, and that is to be an officer. So I would ask, as a taxpayer and a business owner and a Hopkinton resident, that you reinstate Sergeant Brennan as a member of the Hopkinton Police Department, because we need him. It's the right thing to do. He is Hopkinton.
Thank you, Jim.
Hello, I'm Karen Crum. I live at 12 Joseph Road in Hopkinton. For the record, I'd like to say that I'm not related to or friends of Sergeant Brennan or the Brennan family. I was introduced to his wife once, more than 7 years ago. I've only had positive interactions with the police department in my 21 years here. I have no personal ties and vendettas against anyone involved in this case. I started reading everything when I realized there was more focus on Porter than there was on Brennan, and I found that to be very misleading as to what the situation really was in this town. I deep dove, specifically focusing on the timelines of events. However, it wasn't until the Loudermill hearing that both sides were able to be heard for the first time, and that's when everything was clarified. It's also when I realized that there has to be something else going on that was being missed, or someone's hoping it's missed. It's messy, and it has to be breaking some sort of policy. It seemed extreme to be paying $30,000 to investigate a policy violation when typically you would think that could be handled internally. So here's a few things I'd like to point out. One, please stop saying Sergeant Brennan is a nice person or you've only had positive interactions with him. That kind of goes without saying, has nothing to do with the case or the decision in front of you. Please stop saying that the select board isn't paid, including Sergeant Brennan saying that. You knew you weren't paid. You went to run for the positions knowing it wasn't paid. It's never been paid. That's a non-issue. After hearing both sides at the Loudermill hearing, there was no deliberation amongst the select board. It took 42 seconds for Select Board member Amy Ritterbusch to motion to terminate with an immediate second for the motion. Mariel Kramer, the Select Board Chair, is the only member of your board that has professional experience dealing with trauma victims and survivors, yet none of the other 4 members gave any respect for her opinion on this matter. It is my hope that it's not true that the Select Board has people's career advancements think they would be hindered by rumors.
Just letting you know that you need to wrap up.
I'll wrap it up. It's my opinion that the Select Board, for some reason, already knew that no matter what they heard or what they read, their decision needed to accept the recommendation for termination. Therefore, they were only going through the motions of the Loudermill hearing. I back this up by the lack of knowledge of the timeline and because no Select Board member indicated they needed more time to read the report, yet several told us they had received it only a few days prior. Lastly, to start off a vote to terminate with the words Ms. Ritterbusch used, quote, "Good people make serious errors in judgment," I found that incredibly insulting way to address Sergeant Brennan's stellar career protecting our town. That is something I would say to my teenage kids, not to a police officer that has been protecting our town. Please stop saying this is the hardest thing you've ever had to do. What's hard is what Sergeant Brennan had to do, and what's harder is what the victim, she's still a victim, she's been victimized again. That's hard. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Steve Snow, through the chair, 78 Pine Island Road. I am the preferable guy that got up in the back and said, this is BS. I apologize for that. But there was an awful lot going on in that room, and this redneck, blue-collar guy knows what bullshit smells like, and that was what was going on. The only reason why I'm here, the only reason why I was at that meeting is to save Timothy Brennan's job. I don't care about the victim. I don't care about the survivor. Timothy Brennan was doing a really good job of taking care of that woman. And it obviously proves his point that the reason he was doing what he did is none of you could keep your mouth shut. Both the chief, both you, Ms. Rittenberg. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong, and that's all I got to say, because everybody else knows the truth.
Thank you, sir. Oh. Might as well, it's okay, it's okay. You can both come up and take one at a time. Go ahead. It's hot. All right, Donnie.
Thank you. Hi. My name is Chrisanne Campos, actually Chrisanne Connell, and I live at 8 Donna Pass in town. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'm here today to express dismay over the potential termination of Sergeant Brennan and to urge you to reinstate him. If I were a survivor of a sex crime, I would hope that a compassionate, victim-centered officer like Sergeant Brennan was within my reach. I would hope that the officer I confided in would put my humanity first instead of digging into a policy manual that provided no clear guidance on how to handle sexual misconduct allegations against a superior officer. Sergeant Brennan did exactly this, kept the survivor's confidence, and allowed her to come forward to build a case on her own timeline. This is true public service. I can only hope all first responders in the same scenario could make the same decision to protect a survivor. After all of this effort to allow the survivor to remain anonymous, Chief Bennett and the board published her name. Let that sink in. How devastating this must be for her after all of this time. If anything here is unconscionable, it is the outing of the survivor, regardless of why. Administrative slip-up, vindictiveness, this is a crime worthy of punishment. To the Select Board, I appreciate your service to the community, your voluntary service, and I know as a member of a voluntary town committee that takes up significantly less time than the Select Board, there is often a lot of material to digest, and particularly in this case. However, a family's livelihood and future lay in the balance here, and there's no room for sloppy errors. During the Loudermill hearing, I was troubled by repeated reference to policies that Sergeant Brennan should have followed. Policies.
2 minutes, just letting you know.
Okay, I'm almost done. That policies that Sergeant Brennan should have followed that were not in existence at the time the survivor approached him with her story. I was troubled with a lack of understanding that this was, in fact, an adult that came to Sergeant Brennan and not a child under 18, which would have necessitated mandated reporting under Massachusetts general law. To me, the hearing seemed to be an opinion-sharing session on common sense, not actual written policy. Select Board members were throwing out random ideas about who they think Brennan should have told about these allegations within town government. Where's this in policy? Let's not forget that this Loudermill hearing was regarding whether Sergeant Brennan made a clear policy violation, not whether you agree or disagree with his use of common sense and compassion outside of the insufficient policy guidance. If we're talking about opinions, then I'd like to share mine. Brennan deserves his job back. Thank you.
All right, Donnie, 2 minutes.
Yep, got it. Don Collins, 45 Teresa Road. When you pin on a badge, it doesn't mean you give up your credibility, your integrity, or your trustworthiness. All qualities that, as you're applying to be a candidate, to be a police officer or any other public servant, are very important in putting you a step ahead of anybody else. Sergeant Brennan's obligation was to the victim that confided in him. It wasn't about the students at BVT. It wasn't to anybody else. He gave his word and put his credibility and reputation, everything on the line to protect that one victim that came to him and entrusted her story to him. One thing that really troubles me is you had a public hearing, and in my mind, maybe I'm a little naive, but when you go to a public hearing, it's to gather information so we can make our own informed decisions and opinions. And I don't know what was so abrasive or offensive to the town that you could not release the attorney Keeley's report. She was basically the only subject matter expert in the room, and she could have enlightened all of us on what was appropriate and what may not have been, or at least kind of showed us where in the spectrum we lied or we laid down, you know. So another thing that troubles me is the town. I don't know if you think that our tax money that we all work very hard for and we all want to be spent, you know, appropriately is not a little slush fund that you guys can just pay people off. You know, you can hire more consultants or whatever. Because I think, to be perfectly honest, some of the expert opinions and whatever you're being given, it's atrocious. You know, there were three of the 5 allegations of policies that you couldn't even do. any junior high civics student could have told you can't retroactively be charged for policies that weren't in place previous to that. I would just like to say that, stop the madness. Let's get our town back together. Let's give the police department back probably the most compassionate and the best guy you got for training the younger members and being a mentor to them. And let's put all this silliness aside and try to, go on with a little better damage control. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yvonne? Two minutes.
2 minutes. Yvonne Riley, 201 West Main Street. I'm here in support of Sergeant Brennan, and I agree with all the statements I've heard here tonight, but I have a question for the board. Was the board given the full 95-page interview with Sergeant Brennan before Friday night's slaughter mill hearing, or just the nicely summarized and sanitized 34-page version from Kroll?
It's not an interactive thing.
I was told I could ask a question? No,
You can certainly ask a question, but it...
Okay. Sorry. So
No, you're fine.
So within the full interview, I found the timeline. It was very informative. It was very easy to follow. I also found the answer to Mary Jo's question of whether her mother was told or not. And the other thing that had me concerned was that if you had read the full interview, why were you not concerned about the level of personal information that was contained within that interview, regardless of the victim's name? There was so much information about her. It's pretty easy to figure out who she was if you went to school with her, if you worked at the school in that time frame. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Sabine St. Pierre, One Woody Island. During Brennan's hearing, in one breath, the town council was recommending termination for violating policy that required Brennan to report to the chief and the deputy chief. In the next breath, the town council then states that since Brennan didn't want to do that, or he didn't do that, he should have used common sense and reported it to someone on the select board, town manager, etc. But wouldn't that have also violated the same policy? Would he have faced termination back then for violating this policy? Since it seems the select board likes to play hypothetical situations, if Brennan had indeed reported it in 2017, it was stated over and over again that there would not have been sufficient enough evidence to have indicted Porter. It would have been a he said, she said. But wait, she said she would deny it then. So there would have been no case. And Porter still would have been in the public as an officer. You still would have promoted him. And he would have still probably been continuing to coach soccer. As Brennan has stated his years of experience, he knew what it was going to take for her to come forward in her own time to report enough information to be able to indict him. For 7 years, he kept her name anonymous. One looks at that, many of us obviously see that as commendable. Interestingly, later in the hearing, the chief sat there and emphatically stated during a hypothetical question by a select board member that if Brennan had come forward in 2017, that he would have 100% been able to keep her identity anonymous, as well as provide her with the support she would need to feel comfortable. As we've heard tonight, she's still not receiving anything, any support, as Brennan's family is not.
2 minutes coming up, Sibby.
Yeah, thank you. And obviously the name's been released. So I think we've heard this over and over and over again. Brennan needs to be reinstated.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Amy Thomas. I live at 215 Pond Street. I would like to address the revisionist history that at least 2 of the members of this board entertained during the Sergeant Tim Brennan hearing. Irfan and Mary Jo both claimed that they wouldn't have promoted Jay Porter had Sergeant Brennan alerted them to the allegations that he had raped an underage girl. This is absolutely false. That reality is that you would have done nothing different than what you did. Without a cooperating witness or any criminal complaint, there would be no reason for you to not vote for Porter to advance him through the ranks. And it is disingenuous for you to now claim otherwise, when during Porter's confirmation hearing for deputy chief, both of you were clearly enamored with him. Irfan called him the man of the hour. And Mary Jo, you said you'd known him for many years and there was no one better for the job. You both are saying this because you are trying to wash your hands of this, but no one has clean hands here. The select board is the appointing authority, and if you didn't do your due diligence, that's on you. And anyone who has been in town for more than a few years knew there were red flags with Porter. Muriel publicly said she had reservations about the process. And as for you, Amy,
You're approaching 2 minutes.
I am deeply disappointed that you obviously had made your mind up before the hearing. You read a prepared statement that tells me that if somebody had come to you with an allegation about Porter, you would have dismissed it, already have drawn your conclusions, and then posting the victim's information. With the exception of Muriel, you are all on the wrong side of this issue, and you are now trying to save face. You are not representing the voice of the people that elected you to serve them. Please reconsider and reinstate Sergeant Tim Brennan. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. John Spinelli, 42 Alexander Road. Just before I came up here, I just want to let you know I did speak to Tim Brennan on the phone, and he wanted to kind of let it be known that he was unaware of this. He is deeply touched, but he is unaware that this event was taking place. I'm also in a very unique situation where I think I'm probably one of the only few people in the room that has a 27-year law enforcement career at the county level and state. And 15 of those years was in internal affairs. So I've had the opportunity to professionally work hundreds of internal affairs investigations, some against fellow officers, staff members, in multiple different capacities. I will say, in reviewing the information from this case, it's disturbing to say the least that we're even all sitting in this room. This incident should have been handled completely differently. And within several weeks of this coming out, the chief had the opportunity to address this administratively. This is a minor policy violation. You're looking to take this man's career and fire him. I think there's probably some people in this room that should lose their jobs. Tim Brennan's not one of them. I can assure you that if this does go down this path and he loses his job in arbitration, he will get his job back. History tells me that. It shows me that in the investigations that I've done, in the multiple arbitration hearings I've sat in. This town does not have a leg to stand on, and it will cost this town thousands in fees. So the bigger picture here is, how should this have been handled? And it was handled completely inappropriately by the chief. So I think there's a way to fix it, there's a way to correct it, and that's, he needs to have his job back.
Thank you, sir.
No one has their hand up. People are on Zoom. I don't know if you want to say it.
Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to be recognized to speak? Okay, all right. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I am Kelly DiPaolo, and I live at 648 Whitney here in town. I've known Tim since 1986. I was 19 years old when I met Tim at Bentley College. We worked together. Tim was a police officer. I was a resident assistant. I learned so much from him. He's a man of character. He's a man of his word. He does what he says he's going to do, and he means it, and he takes care of people. I am so confused and baffled when I have seen the unfolding of what's happened in this town over the last number of months with what happened. To have watched the hearing last week and to have watched somebody like Mrs. Rittenbusch come in with a predetermined statement that she read, and just like tonight, she has barely looked up from her computer to make eye contact with people. And even from a psychology standpoint,
So
to say things.
I'm going to ask you to be careful.
Okay. So what's interesting is that while you certainly owed the victim and the town an apology tonight, do you honestly think that's adequate? You have re-victimized this victim. You have jeopardized her mental health even more than it could potentially even be. Additionally, you have jeopardized her safety. And Tim Brennan, at best, maybe violated a policy violation. I'm not 100% even sure that that's accurate, because it seems like there's some muddy water in there. Without doubt, Ms. Rittenberst she committed a crime, a criminal act, by publishing what she did on social media over the weekend.
Coming up on 2 minutes, ma'am.
Okay. As did Chief Bennett. And what that has done to the victim is unconscionable and nearly impossible for most people in this room to understand unless you've been the victim of a sexual assault or a crime. It's absolutely horrendous that what you've done. And you're still sitting here representing us. So I will say in closing, Sergeant Brennan is the kind of man that not only do we want in our town as a fellow townsperson, we want in our police force. He's reliable. He's someone we can count on. He's honest. He's got integrity. We want him as somebody in our town as a fellow adult. If any of my 4 boys turn out to be anything like Tim Brennan, I will feel blessed. Please reinstate him.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Osich. I live at 11 Courtney Circle here in Hopkinton. I've been in the town for 11 years. I'm also a small business owner in town. I have 2 young girls in the school system who I hope never have to face the trauma that the victim in this case has. And I also have a father who worked 30 plus years in town government where I grew up. And he taught me several things. And I think Tim was taught several lessons. And some of those are that the right thing is not always the easy thing to do. And the easy thing is not always the right thing to do. And Tim chose the hard path. And maybe on a technicality, it was wrong, but it was 100% the right thing to do for that victim. And the fact that that is being overlooked, and the fact that people on this board did not consider all the facts before coming to a conclusion, or blatantly misunderstood the timeline, and made that clearly apparent at the last hearing, was very disappointing. I was watching from home then. I'm here now because I feel more passionate after seeing how Tim has been treated. He's one of the first people I met when I came to Hopkinton. I consider him a friend. I consider him a better person. And if this committee select group votes to terminate Tim, I ask you immediately after that to hand in your resignations, especially with the disclosures that have happened over the past week. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Gail Ober. I live at 17 Fawn Ridge Road in Hopkinton, here in Hopkinton. I think that everything that everyone has said tonight has just been incredible, and I'm appalled. I'm appalled at this board, and I'm appalled at the chief. And I would like to make a motion that Tim Brennan be the new chief of police in this town.
Michael Riley, 201 West Main Street. I was shocked at the meeting that I went to regarding Officer Brennan. I was shocked at the lack of professionalism that the attorney that we paid for creating reports and charging someone with policy violations. Then I was shocked at the way, I gotta be honest with you, some of the guys on the select board just weren't looking at the same things that we were looking at, which had a timeline and asking questions that obviously they weren't either reading the report or they were just ignoring it, or that it was just appalling that we're holding this guy's job in question, his livelihood, based on those things. I tried to be a very objective person, and I tried to see from a different side, and I just don't see it, and I don't see how you folks do. And the other thing that really concerns me is we're ready to throw his career away. We're ready to fire him for a policy violation, but we have two people that just broke the law, and they're still sitting in their positions. They haven't resigned. They haven't been charged with anything. And it just, it's the hypocrisy of that just gets me. We can't take one thing and say, we're ready to do this because it's so serious, a policy violation, but a criminal act, well, we'll deal with that later. I just think character is what you do when times are tough. You may have come up with a decision that was to fire Tim, or may have thought that. Show some character and rethink it based on everything that you're hearing now. And along with John said, not only are you going to lose on the appeal, then you're also going to pay a wrongful termination, which could be hundreds and hundreds of thousands, because
You're at 2 minutes, Mike.
even though he gets hired back, you still fired him, so it's still a wrongful termination. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
David Wheeler, 37 Blueberry Lane. I encourage the Select Board to make a decision based on facts, not emotion. There is a lot of emotion connected to this: a vile crime, a potential criminal not behind bars, personal connections to others involved, etc. The Select Board cannot make a decision based on a wish of changing the past, the hope that some action in the past could have brought justice to the survivor sooner, the desire to take back a promotion decision made by the Select Board. I'd like to ask, how would a Select Board like yourselves legally use an unsubstantiated claim of a crime with no evidence, no corroborating testimony from the survivor, and presumably a vehement denial of wrongdoing by the accused? How would you legally use this information in a formal promotion, hiring, or termination process? I continue to trust and support Sergeant Tim Brennan, and I continue to congratulate him on his hard work to assist a victim to come forward in such a way that, at the very least, there is a real possibility for justice for her and a conviction. I urge the Select Board to consider their actions carefully and to use facts, not emotion, in their decision to support or deny Chief Bennett's recommendation of disciplinary action for policy violations. If you do these things, I'm confident you'll reinstate Sergeant Tim Brennan to the Hopkinton Police Department immediately and offer him a public apology.
Good evening. My name is Diane Minka. I live at 70 School Street, and I just wanted to say I'm here in support of Officer Brennan. I am deeply disappointed that the town released the victim's name. Not only was this a violation of the law, but a violation of her rights and privacy. The fact that both the chief of police and Ms. Ridbush shared her information is shameful. It is obvious to me why Brennan did not share this information with his supervisor or the Select Board. He knew you could not be trusted. He had held the information for 7 years, and her name was never in the public. Now it is public. Sergeant Brennan was protecting the victim from my vantage point, and he is the only one that did so. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
We're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you all for coming.
The warrant closes on the 6th. When does the warrant close on the 6th? Do we have one more meeting then?
Yes, on the date that closes.
So we could still do other things. Okay. Okay.
Might have close of business.
What's that? Oh.
Although the close of business is
7?
7 p.m.
You can put another article.
Not me. So I'm just saying we might not get through it tonight. We might not get through everything.
Yeah.
It's 75 on that.
I said 5 minutes. I have no idea what time I said that.
3 minutes.
Thank you.
This measure. Yeah, I think we can do the ones that are kind of high priority.
Yeah. Elaine, would you queue up our Newtown employees? I'm going to move ahead to Newtown employees, if you can let them, whoever them are, know. Going to do that next? Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, there's one more minute to this break. Ladies and gentlemen.
So you want to use the,
That's all right. No, it's all right.
the microphone?
Ladies and gentlemen, just let you know that we reconvene. We're going to move on to 6 Newtown employees in Slainsville. We'll move forward. I do not.
Trying to make sure I can get Kristen here.
Huh?
Trying to make sure I can get Kristen Merrill here.
Yes, thank you. We're going to move forward to 6. We're going to start as soon as Kristen gets here. And then we'll bounce back. If somebody can help me make sure that we
Yeah.
catch things. Yeah. Awesome. So sir, if you would come forward and tell me who you are. We are not back in session, but tell me who you are.
My name is Walter Garland at 50
Hi,
Downey
Walter.
Street. Hi. There are so many people here that want to make public comment. I'm just curious how you can just stop that. Everybody took their time to come here and make comments.
Yep. So let me just share with you that there is business that we have to do tonight. We have public comment at every meeting. I am very invested in respectfully hearing from people on this, but we're going to have to move forward tonight. And if people still want to make public comment, they will be welcome to do that at another meeting. And I know it's hard, but that's what we're going to have to do.
Everyone has made the effort to get here tonight because we understood that we would be given the
very-
opportunity to speak.
I'm actually not going to argue with you. I understand your position. Typically, we would have 15 minutes, so that would have been 4 or 5 or 6 people tops, and we made an exception, and we'll do it again if we have to.
So you're saying that procedurally,
Hold on one
this
second.
is something that you can do?
Yes.
Okay, it's not, you are limiting the time for public comment.
Yeah, it is typically limited. We were flexible tonight. We'll be flexible again if we need to be. I understand it's not perfect. I get it. I do. But we have to move on to business.
I've been on other boards in the town, and when we have business, and it's public business, we just stay. I mean, I understand you have other business to attend to, but Board of Appeals, I've been there till 9 or 10 o'clock.
I expect we're going to best you on that tonight, but I get it. I've been on the Board of Appeals too, I've been on the Planning Board too, I've been on the Board of Selectmen too, I get it. And we have to get to the business. Some of the business has to happen tonight. I also understand people's investment and I appreciate that people have been largely incredibly respectful, and we will listen again, but we have to move forward tonight. I know it's hard.
Can the public ask that this be an agenda item as opposed to a public comment period? That you're going,
I'll take it under, I will take it under advisement, but we're going to move forward. We're going to reconvene in open session.
Madam Chair, can I suggest something? Can we just tally how many people are left and do a quick math, how much time it would possibly
Sure.
take?
Still like to speak?
If you speak at the end of the meeting, we'll stay.
There's 4?
There's 4.
So 8 to 10 minutes, we can...
If we...
So can I have the 4 folks, so I'm trying to be super reasonable about this. I'm really open to hearing people. I really am. And I appreciate that suggestion, Shadul. So if those 4 people would like to stand over here, we'll take those 4 people, 2 minutes each. This doesn't mean this is your last chance to be heard. This is your last chance to be heard tonight. That's all. 1, 2, 3. There was a 4th. I swear there was a 4th. Oh, Mr. Garland, you raised your hand. Are you, okay, 4. Okay, well, why don't you come on back, sir? Are we back, Bob?
Yes.
All right. We're back in open session. You can go first, Mr. Garland.
Thank you. Again, Walter Garland, 50 Downey Street. I just wanted to say that I've been in the town for over 25 years, and I've never seen this kind of citizen support for an issue so overwhelmingly in favor of what everyone has spoken about here tonight, and that's to reinstate Tim Brennan. I've read everything that has been published in online, in papers, et cetera, about it, and comments from people back about it. And I would say almost unanimously that support is 100% behind reinstating Officer Brennan. And kind of the flip side of that is I'm seeing no one that says this is the right thing to do. I mean, I think we have a sizable population in this town of rational people. They've looked at the evidence, considered it carefully, and have said that this is the wrong action to take. Conversely, I've not seen anyone outside of the 3 people up here that one that brought up the motion to accept the termination, and the other members not here, but the other 3 members that said, okay. And I wonder why. Why would an entire population of a town, having read all the facts and that you have access to, come to a different conclusion? So you're in the less than 1% or 0.1% that seems to support this action that's been recommended. So it makes me wonder if there's some kind of backroom discussion about this, that this is what we need to do as a town. The town council has advised the board to do this, that you're not really looking at the facts. Okay, so probably enough said on that, but I think clearly by the turnout, the support is here to reinstate Officer Brennan. Please do that. Thanks.
Thanks for letting us have another chance to talk. My name is Ron Shamus, 36 Lakeshore Drive. As a former committee chair from Troop 4 and for the fields person and coach for Little League, I can attest to all the character the team has, and always somebody that could always step up and join in, somebody you can always count on to be there. So it wasn't a surprise when I heard what he did for that young lady. And so, to try to be fair for your time tonight, I just want to point out that I'm really disappointed in the board in not listening to the testimony that was provided that evening, right? And I know it's stressful. Pardon me. I know it's stressful, and so, but we have the opportunity to do the right thing, right? So please take all that you've heard into consideration. You know, a minor violation does not warrant termination. I'm a hiring manager. I have been for a long time in industry. So I would suggest that we take a step back, look at the facts, and not ruin somebody's career and livelihood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Jim Scanlon, 121 Pond Street. Thank you. I'm not here to talk about Tim. There are countless others to do that. I wanted to just comment on what I saw at the hearing. From this board, it was appalling, breathtakingly so. The level of unpreparedness, how disengaged, confused, and quite frankly, utterly incompetent behavior was really, I was caught off guard. This town deserves better. And instead of stepping up and rising up to address what the bigger issues were post, like outing this poor victim, the alleged potential crime perpetrated in that process by Ms. Ritterbusch, by the chief. You choose to focus on typos in the town charter that would ostensibly give the chief more power this coming May. Proves once more that you are not fit for this office. This town deserves better, and I will let you know, and I wanted to just look you all in the eye, that when you are asked to be recalled, and it will happen, you'll know that it was the town that spoke up. We need better. We deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. He was the one more. You can come back next week, Dana. We'll meet again next week.
Okay, can I go in his set?
No.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the Select Board, you have a responsibility to the town of Hopkinton. Sergeant Tim Brennan has been a servant of the town.
Oh, name and address, sir. I'm sorry.
Timothy Babin, 91 Downing Street. Sergeant Brennan has been a loyal Hopkinton public servant for over 20 years, more time than many of you combined. His exemplary service has been shown throughout the community longer than any of you. In his role as a public servant, he made a compassionate decision to respect and protect the victim of a heinous crime. This seems to be lost on this board, and I don't know why. You've watched as town council and the police chief distorted the facts and tried to unfairly blame Sergeant Brennan for the vetting of former Deputy Chief Porter, when that responsibility lies squarely with the chief. We, the taxpayers of the town of Hopkinton, implore you, the Select Board, to retain Sergeant Brennan as a member of the Hopkinton Police Department. This unprecedented motion for termination requested by the chief has shown to be capricious and personal and grossly overstated the facts with regards to a minor policy violation, which should have been resolved with a letter of reprimand or a brief suspension. Utilizing the overpriced, one-sided quasi-investigation by Kroll sought to divert the attention from the chief's own shortcomings. These shortcomings are further evidenced by the chief's posting to a department website the victim's confidential and legally protected identity. Your own town attorney and the chief specifically and emphatically referenced that report.
2 minutes.
Either of those actions are either complete incompetence or personal malice towards Sergeant Brennan. Either one of those things is unacceptable. End this embarrassment bring Sergeant Tim Brennan back to work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Number 6. I think that makes sense. Thanks, Elaine, for your help.
You can send it to her. This is like a school vote.
You have the budget now, or?
We're going to do town employees.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Of course.
And then we're going to do change of manager. We'll do these, and then the consolidated budget. We'll do the next 4 in a row at least. And we got to do town meetings, so we might as well just march right down them.
What are you suggesting?
No, I'm sorry, number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
And then we'll regroup. I don't know, I haven't even gotten that far, to be honest. Oh my gosh, look at this, sitting in the back room.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe they were in the... Awesome. Mrs. Merrill, come on up for... Mrs. Merrill, please join us. So our next order of business is to consider confirming the town manager's appointment of new employees. Mrs. Merrill, take us away.
Thank you. Have a seat, Rita. Excuse me, I just get myself organized here. All right. All right, I am pleased to introduce Rita Bencharky, candidate for payroll manager. Rita comes to us with many, many years of payroll experience in a variety of different public and private sector businesses. She's worked most recently in contract payroll positions as payroll manager, but also has experience with the town of Belmont and the town of Wayland and even the town of Natick, I believe. She has an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, and a master's degree in business administration. References indicated that Rita's great about looking for efficient processes. Another reference described she took on or described taking on a new payroll position as similar to jumping into a rushing river. And this reference indicated that Rita was up to the challenge. It was during COVID, and she brought stability to what had been an extended vacancy in that particular position. She's described as someone who takes ownership of her role and that she does whatever needs to be done to get the job accomplished. We also heard from references that Rita communicates well with different levels of stakeholders and is confidential with all payroll information, which is critically important in that role. We did 2 rounds of interviews. It was a competitive process with 10 applicants. We saw 8 applicants first round and narrowed it down to 3 second round, and Rita was the selected candidate. Excuse me, I just dropped my keys. First round panel consisted of CJ Paquette, assistant treasurer and now interim treasurer collector, Michelle Brodeur, the payroll coordinator with Hopkinton Public Schools. We do a lot of collaborating with the schools around payroll. Lucas Ferreira, the data and application support specialist for the town. Jessica Leverins, and myself from HR. And second round was CJ Paquette again, Josh Grossetti, IT director, Susan Rothermick, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations for the town, or at the school, Hopkinton Public Schools, Elaine Lazarus, and Jessica Leverins, again from HR. So.
Do you or Mr. Kamala want to speak on? Norman, are you still here with us?
Yes. Yes, I am.
I want to invite you to join.
Yes, I'm still here.
Did you want to say anything about the process in this hiring opportunity?
We have a unanimous, I think, a recommendation, including the town manager, that we hire Rita Ben-Chekua as the town's payroll manager.
So this is our happy opportunity to both welcome you and also ask you, I often ask new employees to just introduce yourself a little bit to the town and why you're interested in working here.
I've worked with many towns, and I want to get back into the municipality. I like being able to work in the towns, get to know the towns. But one of the other things is I like to be able to support our first responders. They do such a great job. They go out, they put their lives on the line. And for me to be able to pay them and pay them correctly and get their salary down, it gives me a great feeling to do that, to be able to get everybody, not just our first responders, but all the town, because everybody in the town does an important job. So for me, that's a rewarding feeling of being able to get everybody done, everybody paid correctly, and then not having to worry about that. And also I can help somebody. I really would like to be able to do that. I mean, when I was at the town of Wayland, that needed some direction with her salary and her pay and her pay. And I didn't tell her what I gave her direction as, you should go see a tax accountant because, she had it and she was just getting ding at the end of the year because she was paying on her. So I told her to go to a tax accountant. She asked me and I got 3 people that I knew and was able to give that to her. And then she was like, thank you very much. Me and my husband, we're not going to have to pay next year. So, I mean, things like that, even though, not much that I did, I just felt like she was very thankful. She was very, appreciated. But I was able to help her and her family.
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful illustration about how important everybody's job is in all the pieces of meeting the needs of the town and the town employees. Thank you. Shahidul, do you have any questions?
Not much of question, but just in general, I want to thank you for choosing Hopkinton. And I'm sure we'll be tremendously benefited from your service. I liked your background. You have deep academic education in business and accounting and payroll, and you've been doing it for decades in towns. So we're lucky to have you, I think. And I want to welcome you and thank you for coming to Hopkinton.
I know, it's a little loud. It's a little loud. He was just thanking you.
Yeah, thank you for choosing Hopkinton and welcome. Yeah.
I know,
No,
it
yes.
is. Thank you for your patience with that. Amy, did you have any questions?
I don't particularly have any questions. I just was pleased to see you have the Munis experience, and I know we're really happy to make sure everyone in town and all that works hard gets paid. And it's really important to have someone in that role that knows what Munis and knows what they're doing.
Especially with the different unions and knowing the difference between each union, like the police. Normally the police are 37.5. I'm not sure if it's the same here as with a fire paid at 40. So it's the unions also too are very you have to pay attention. You have to know each one gets a clothing allowance. DPW gets a clothing allowance. So I bring that with me from the town of Belmont and the town of Wayland because it was given to me and said,
you know unions, please, and I got everybody paid on time, so that's
the very important part. Everybody gets paid
The
on
most
time.
important part. Mary Jo?
Yeah, I want to welcome you to Hopkinton, and I'm really glad to see in your software skills, Munis is one of them, because that's been around here for a little while. And I just wanted to say, in your management program, you have both Beth Israel and the town of Natick, and I came from the town of Natick, and I went to school at Beth Israel, so we have a couple of things in common, and worked for the YMCA, and we have a Y here in Hopkinton too, and everything in your resume is just outstanding. So I just want to welcome you very much to the town of Hopkinton.
I do have another quick question.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to hear from you. How do you spell your last name? How do you spell your last name? Ben Sharkey. Thank you.
It's actually Arabic. My ex-husband is from Morocco,
Thank you. Yeah, another. Wanted to make sure. Madam Chair, I move to confirm the town manager's appointment of Rita Ben-Sharkey as payroll manager.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations. And thank you for your patience tonight. Can you leave the chair? Can you leave the chair for her and we'll get another one? I'm sorry. Oh, does she have one? Oh, perfect, perfect. I didn't see it. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have our, I'd like to introduce Armando Nidro, our facilities manager candidate. Armando comes to us with quite a bit of experience in the management, property management field, having worked most recently at Windsor Communities in both Hopkinton and Westboro for about 7 years as a service technician, and then was promoted to service manager. Prior to that, he worked for Wynn Properties as a service technician. References described Armando as intelligent, focused, and possessing excellent computer skills. One reference indicated that Armando saved the company money by diligently working with contractors on pricing. Armando was described steady, consistent, and reliable in a business where there is often high turnover with management staff. We did 2 rounds of interviews. We had 4 candidates first round and 3 second round, and Armando was the selected candidate. The panel consisted of Dave Del Torio, Vasuda Dutta, Scott Jurassic from the fire department, and myself for first round, and then Dave again, Tim Person, the director of building and grounds at Hopkinton Public Schools, Elaine Lazarus, and Jessica Leverance from Human Resources. Dave, do you have anything to add?
Oh, I'm just excited to fill the facilities manager role. It's been open since last July, so it's been a long process. Just looking forward to bringing Armando around tomorrow, getting the department back up to where expectations can be met. So, just excited.
Great. Mr. Kamalo.
I respectfully request the board confirm the town manager's appointment of Armando. Very highly qualified, and he will add tremendous value to the team.
Armando, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in working for Hopkinton.
Okay, my name is Armando. I mean, this one is a shift in my career. I wanted to move from something from private to public work. I'm excited to be here, and honestly, it was always a goal to work in Hopkinton, even leave. Unfortunately, we could not live in here, so the best to be part of the community is at least to work. I live not far from here. The one was another class why I decided to apply for this position. And I guess I will help Dave as much as I can and make a difference.
Thank you very much. John?
Just in general, I think you have a great background and experience. I especially like that you also are very hands-on and you have HVAC certification. It's also good to know so much details and have that level of experience, even though you'll be managing a lot, I'm sure. So thank you for choosing Hopkinton, and welcome.
I don't particularly have any questions, but we're happy to have you here. And I wanted to say the Commission on Disability is looking into facilities too, so we'll be in touch with you and Dave about, like, I guess some of our members have noticed sometimes people leave things blocking the handicap entrance to the building or whatever, and I'm sure you'll be right on top of that, making sure that every entries are clear. Yeah.
Mary Jo?
I love it. Your resume was very well-rounded for the job you're looking for, and I really appreciated it. And your list of things that you can do, I could use a lot of those things at my house. But I know that the town will really appreciate it, so I thank you very much. Welcome.
Yep. I move to confirm the town manager's appointment of Armando Andrew as facilities manager.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, congratulations. Oh, we might have you back.
All right, and we have a candidate for promotion this evening. Through the chair, I'd like to introduce Jessica Jack Miller, who may be familiar to you. Jack has been the young adult librarian at Hopkinton Public Library and applied for a very competitive process for the position of Assistant Library Services Director. We had 14 candidates apply for this role, very qualified candidates. We had 8 that we saw in the first round, and we moved 4 forward to second round, and Jack was a selected candidate. Jack, in addition to having worked as a young adult librarian, started her career here in Hopkinton as a substitute reference librarian. She has a long career in the U.S. Army, 15 years, where she has served various positions from team chief, company commander, detachment commander, platoon leader, general supply officer, fuels officer, and operations officer. So she brings that leadership experience to Hopkinton Public Library from the Army, and then worked as a circulation assistant in Milford for a year and a half. She has a Bachelor of Arts and Humanities, a Master of Science in Library and Information Science, and has a leadership certificate, Command and General Staff College from the U.S. Army. I have a list of relevant competencies. Nancy, why don't we just pick 2 or 3 because there are many, and I know we're short on time.
Sure. As the young adult librarian for the last 3 years, Jack has displayed many of the competencies that are required of this position as well, but over the last year, she assisted me in filling out the relevant forms that are required by the state every year. She expressed an interest in knowing the inner workings of how we receive state aid, where the Hopkinton Library fits into the state and into the region and into the country library systems. And so I enthusiastically accepted her help with that. She also completed a facilitator-led 8-week workshop through Library Journal on library leadership in specific. But one of the things that stood out to those of us on the selection committees, both of them, was how Jack very succinctly explained how her years in Army leadership can translate into library leadership. So we're very, very happy to recommend her.
Thank you, Nancy. Mr. Kamalo, please.
Through the chair, Jack, I'm very excited to be recommending your candidacy for confirmation by the Select Board. I have worked closely with you on many projects in town, and you've proved to be a great asset, not just to the library, but to the wider community.
So I'm delighted to see this too. I remember fondly sitting around the table doing our little book club for the HCAM interview. And I also really personally, and I know I speak for a lot of people, really appreciate your service. And I think we're lucky to have you and to keep you and to see you promoting in the ranks at the library. So I hope this is a really great position for you. Maybe just, if people haven't met you, just introduce yourself a little bit. I think you have a beautiful family back there.
Thank you, Meryl. I appreciate it greatly. Yes, so I'm a Hopkinton resident, right on Main Street. You'll know me because I'm the one that has the chickens in the front yard. I have my daughter, and she's behind me right now, so that's Snuffle. There she is. And my partner, Jeremy, as well as two stepsons who are with their mom during the week. And we live here in Hopkinton, and in this position, I am looking to give back to the town, even more to the town that has given so much to me. I moved here after a terrible personal tragedy, looking for a place that would embrace me in a way that would help me heal and help me recover. And this town has given me everything that I could ever wish for and more. It built me back up when I was at a place where I didn't think I could ever be built back up again. And the only way that I can think to give back is to do it in a library where we are the hub of the community, where we can truly help everyone, from the kid learning to read, to someone who's a job seeker, to the English language circles that we have. We really touch everyone in the community in the library. And this is the only way that I really feel that I can just give back to the community in the way that the community has touched me. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Wow, thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Jack, for your service, first of all. Also, I like that we are able to promote and groom from within. So it's a great thing and great news for our town. I love that your background, not only in Army organization, as well as been in librarian role for quite some time, and you pursued the master's in library science. That tells your passion and your effort and hard work. So congratulations, and thank you for choosing Hopkinton. A lot more to do, I'm sure, and welcome.
I don't particularly have any questions. We enjoyed meeting you. We did the One Book, One Hopkinton taping a few months ago. And I'm, it's always good when we can hire from within. And, as Nancy said, she already had seen how well you work and that you will fit in with the new role. So we're glad that you can be promoted.
Joe?
Considering the statement you just made about Hopkinton and coming to Hopkinton and living here, I think we're honored to have you at the library. And your work in youth and young adults and families with the Family Services, the Trails Club, the schools, your outreach and your incentive is just fabulous. And we're very happy to have you. Welcome.
So with that, Madam Chair, I move to confirm the town manager's appointment of Jessica Miller as Assistant Library Services Director.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations. This is when we do the time-honored thing, and I think we missed, Armando, maybe we take a picture, because we're so excited that you're here and staying. Do we have the folks from 204 Saddle Hill, the country club? Potentially online?
Anyone online?
Didn't know if it was DC. I don't know if that's.
Do you know who we're waiting for from, are we waiting for somebody from the country club to come, Mr. Kamalo?
They have been informed and invited.
Don't see anyone online.
No, do you want to address the, I think we can keep moving then if they're not here, and we can come back to it. So do we have Samantha Prescott? So this is the item of business, request for extension of hours to sell alcohol at the Hopkinton Spoon. Welcome. So the Select Board will consider approving a request from Samantha Prescott of the Hopkinton Spoon, 1 Lumber Street, to serve alcohol from 8 a.m. on 5/12, Mother's Day. Father's Day, yay! This June 16th and November 3rd, Daylight Savings, and Thanksgiving Eve Day, 11/27. 11/29 Black Friday, and 12/24 Christmas Eve. So the current approved hours to sell alcohol at the Hopkinton Spoon are 10 to 10, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And the request on those select days is to start at 8 a.m. The Hopkinton Spoon has a Section 12 wine and malt license, and the staff recommends approval. Mr. Kamalo, do you have anything to share?
Yes, through the chair, as we all know, the Spoon is a significant feature in Hopkinton. And the good thing is, over the years, we have had no issues at the Spoon regarding the alcohol license, as well as I wanted to share with the applicant as well as the community that the police department stands ready to help the Spoon as they transition to the new hours at these specific days, should the board be inclined to approve the license.
Thank you. So tell us, why would you like this in?
I think it just allows, I wish we were a bigger space. It just allows us to allow for more people to experience what we have to offer on those busy days. So on those Mother's Days, Father's Days, we have lines forming at 7 o'clock in the morning. So it allows all patrons to experience all that we have to offer a little bit more throughout the day. It also does allow us to capitalize on those days, but in reality, I just want everyone there to be able to have everything we have to offer when they come, because they know that they have to come there at 8 a.m., because if they don't, they'll be in a 42-hour-long wait. And I just want all patrons to be able to experience the full ability that we have to offer.
John, do you have any questions?
Nothing very specific. I think it's understandable what you explained, and I like Spoon, the food and the ambience. Thank you for doing what you do. I'm just curious, the daylight saving, how is that celebrated?
So the springtime more than the fall time. We are so busy that day that when people wake up like in their days, it just allows us, like, we're so busy in the day that people think that they need a jump start in their day. So we're often getting asked, it's more of people asking us, like, we are getting asked at 8 a.m. I'll have a mimosa, because they see that, and I try to label it like very clearly on our boards, on our menu, like alcohol starting at 10. But you still have people, because the day gets so jumped ahead of time, like people are waking up early that they're like, oh, can we start having a mimosa at this time, like 9 o'clock? And we're like, no, we're like, you have to wait another hour. And so it's more in the springtime as opposed to fall, but it is like we're taking what the customers have to offer us. Like, they're asking us, like, at 8 a.m. often, can we start? And we're like, nope, like 10 o'clock, like that's no big deal. And then 9 o'clock is like the big push of when people are like really like coming at us like, hey, can we start like getting our day? Like, they're only at our restaurant for about an hour to an hour and a half. So they want to experience all that we have to offer. The daylight savings is more just, it's an hour earlier than we normally would be operating.
Understood, yeah, I just didn't know.
In our packet, it lists the fall daylight savings, but I don't think it lists the spring daylight savings.
Right.
An omission? Or?
No, it's just yeah, correct.
Okay.
Did you have another question?
No.
Hey, Joe, any questions?
Personally, I think this is great. It's an extra celebration of daylight savings, just a little extra. And, you know, I can't see people having much more in the morning than a mimosa anyway.
No.
And
people honestly only spend
it's
like
just
an hour
celebration.
to an hour and a half with us.
It adds to a celebration atmosphere, and I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
I move to approve the expansion of hours for the Hopkinton Spoon to serve alcohol so that sales may begin at 8 a.m. on the following days: 5/12/24, Mother's Day; 6/16/24, Father's Day; 11/3/24, Daylight Saving; 11/27/24, Thanksgiving Eve Day; 11/29/24, Black Friday; and 12/24/24, Christmas Eve.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? I don't even remember that you guys serve alcohol.
Mimosas and start line beer starting normally at 10.
I am going to have to adjust my head. I spend quite a bit of time at this.
I think you should.
All right, congratulations. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to move on to the agenda item, the FY 2025 Consolidated Budget Submission. And I wonder if we could invite the school committee and the appropriation committee to come forward and join us. In whatever way makes sense, gather around.
Looks like both Flannery and Caroline Liu are on the Zoom.
Oh, great. Thank you. And thank you all for your patience tonight.
And Tim O'Leary as well.
Oh, wonderful. If you can bring chairs forward, if you have things to say, people are more likely to be able to hear you. So just, you know, people can come up here as well. Don't be shy. Sit right up at the big table. Why not? There you go, Lori. Yeah, I don't know.
Two here.
Yeah, and you can. You're welcome up at the table.
Yeah. There's one here, too.
I think we're good.
Okay, everybody all set? I know that we have Tim O'Leary, Mr. Kamalo, Bill Flannery, and Carolyn on Zoom, I think, so we'll have to... Yes, please. Okay. And Mike, do you want to call your committee to order?
Call the meeting to order. It is 10.
Okay.
We have Bill Flannery on the Zoom.
Yes, we do.
Yep.
Yeah, Bill Flannery, Caroline Liu, and Tim O'Leary.
Came over.
Okay, perfect. Mr. Kamalo, take us away, please.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair, let me begin first by extending my gratitude, very sincere appreciation for the opportunity to work with phenomenal, talented, and smart individuals at many levels over the years in developing the town's budget. Specifically this year, the individuals who have been working in the background with us that I want to mention and share with the public. Tim O'Leary, our former CFO, has been working alongside me as a budgeting consultant. Ben Sweeney, our former senior accounting manager, has also helped us in going through some of the numbers that are part of the budget. Todd Hassett, the consultant who's been working as helping us in the accounting office, has also contributed tremendously. Also want to thank Diane Hendrickson, our former treasurer collector. She was part of the initial phases in looking at our debt service schedules. And obviously, this work would not be complete without the dedication, commitment by our entire staff, senior leaders, unit managers, and frontline personnel, as well as the fabulous work done by our most valuable performers, members of the town boards, committees, and commissions. I did share with the community as well as with the board members on January 28th an 18-page budget transmittal. It included a balanced budget with key components, revenue sources, expenditure allocations, and budgetary considerations. Before I begin, I would like to note some key features of the town budget planning process. Budget message, strategic investments, sustainment of critical services, and a focus on operational efficiencies. In the fall, the Select Board and Town Manager, working alongside the School Committee, Appropriations Committee, senior leaders, and other commissions, issued a clear directive for the budget process, specifying the allocations and funding limitations for all departments. The Select Board developed that budget message with input from various stakeholders. What about the budget transmittal itself? It embodies comprehensive documentation and a view of the town's fiscal landscape and plans. It upholds the values of transparency and clarity to facilitate better understanding and comprehension of the town's finances. Lastly, it is pointing to future projections, offering a holistic view of the present and future fiscal health of the community. The budget presentation reflects a high level of transparency and clarity. As we have shared with the community over the years, the mix of recurring and one-time sources of funding and the mix of recurring and one-time expenses are challenging to depict clearly and simply. I think you will all agree with me that over the years, we have worked very hard in bringing common understanding of these concepts to the community, as well as town meeting. What about the financial plan standouts? There are 5 principles that we always emphasize when we're putting together the financing plan. Number 1, the methodology of identifying our revenue streams with a focus on sustainability and long-term financial stability. 2, the allocation of resources to ensure that every expenditure is maximized for optimized impact. 3, we have flexibility measures to support long-term fiscal health. For example, funding the town stabilizations and reserve funds with free cash to avoid short-term tax impact for this purpose. Fourthly, revenue sources. We have a beautiful menu that we have developed over the years, combining traditional revenue forms with innovative funding sources and collaborative partnerships. And then fifthly, on the expenditure allocations and priorities, the town has proved over the years that the investment decisions are strategic in nature. The budget process may be year to year, but I think the outputs and the benefits that we see have brought long-term strategic accomplishments for the community. Over the years, the town has developed a presentation of the financial plan that tracks back to prior years. It focuses ahead to future years and presents budgetary information for the coming year in a consistent, logical format. The plan forwarded to you for your review complies with laws, regulations, and town financial policies. The documents provide a comprehensive view of the fiscal landscape for FY 2025 and beyond. The budget plan focuses on clearly identifying revenue streams and their sustainability in the future. My review of departmental expenditures concentrated on optimizing the positive impact of spending across departments. As a critical feature of this plan, one-time sources of funding, notably certified free cash from prior year operations, is allocated to uses that secure the town's future's financial health and growth. Examples include the commitment of one-time resources to fund future healthcare costs for the town's retired employees, commonly referred to as OPEB, to town stabilization accounts to keep stabilization balances at the level specified in financial policy, and to pay-as-you-go capital purchases, including an acquisition of land in the central business district to provide a long-term parking solution that will support continued redevelopment of the downtown area. In my view, these are sound and appropriate uses of the town's current certified free cash balance. And Ben, slide 2. As I've indicated, one second, Mike, I'm going through some technology issues here. Yeah, as I was saying, in terms of slide 2, the slide that you're looking at depicting the sources and uses for FY25, a great deal of work has been done to evaluate both the estimated sources and proposed uses of funds. As the memo and the slide reflect, the The package before you is a balanced budget proposal, with general government revenue and expenses proposed at $123.5 million. As noted in the budget memo, that spending includes $1.8 million in requests above the 4.4% increase level identified in the budget guidance. Funding for those requests is possible within policy guidelines for two reasons. First, the recapitalization of work at the Eversource Hopkinton LNG plant has been valued for property tax purposes above original estimates. Secondly, Eversource suspension of their long-standing practice of appealing all property tax bills and the current levels of the town's tax overlay account at 130% of the value of current tax appeals obviates the need for a contribution to the tax overlay account in FY 2025. Slide 3. The town's key budget objectives include sustaining services at FY 25 levels, meeting contractual obligations to the workforce and key contractor, such as our waste management contract, targeted increases related to growth, safety, and service at the public schools and town departments, a measure of restraint on capital spending reflecting the significant tax impacts of the approved Elmwood School project and the proposed Hopkins School project, which will layer onto tax bills peaking in FY 2028 or perhaps FY 2029, depending on the actual construction progress. I recommend that the town defers some capital projects until after the large school projects are resolved, namely the construction of a new playground at Marathon School, the renewal of high school track number 3, and the telecommunications proposal by the communications department. I am recommending that the select board consider offering the town meeting and the voters the chance to decide on 6 capital initiatives that would be funded through debt outside the tax levy limits of Proposition 2.5, as shown on enclosure 5. Page 1 of the budget memo, including $46.7 million for the Hopkins School addition and renovation. Tax impact is a severe issue facing the community, and the community should review and consider the projects put forward very carefully in that context. And Ben, slide 4. The balanced budget memo includes some key priorities that the Appropriations Committee has consistently and repeatedly emphasized. Namely, the budget proposes funding for future retiree healthcare costs, viz. The OPEB contribution, up 2.5% from FY 2024, from $420,000 to $854,000, with an expectation that the contribution will be raised by 2.5% a year, fully funding this key cost by the mid-2050s. The budget also recommends adding $700,000 to the town's general stabilization fund. Town financial policies recommend a combined free cash and stabilization balance of 5% of the operating budget. This contribution would raise the stabilization fund from $4.6 million to $5.3 million, closing the gap to the target level. While the town did not have to tap into general stabilization funds during the COVID emergency, having an adequate stabilization balance allowed the town to avoid the draconian budgetary measures some other towns took in the face of the COVID-19 uncertainty. The proposed budget also funds recurring needs with recurring resources, a third priority emphasized by Financial Policy and the Appropriation Committee. Slide 5. As in past years, some factors helped balance the proposed budget, and some factors made balancing the budget more difficult. Factors that helped included an opportunity to suspend tax appeal overlay contributions because, and I'm not saying this loudly, Eversource has paused their tax appeal practice. New tax revenue above expectations from the Eversource LNG facility recapitalization, as well as an increase to expected local receipts tied to higher interest rates on town deposits. You'll recall that in the last 3-5 years, we have really paid close attention to the quality of the town's investments. And thanks to the finance team for getting us to a point where these high interest rates actually have a meaningful impact on our funding sources. While an increase in local aid from the Commonwealth is good, the governor's budget providing a net 1.2% increase is less than was anticipated. You'll recall when we set the budget message, we had projected a 5% increase on local aid. Finally, several departments requested increases above the 4.4% target level as detailed on page 2 of the budget memo. Ben, slide 6. The budget is balanced within the tax levy limits imposed by Proposition 2.5. The tax impact for next year's budget will be a 2.4% increase for the new costs in the FY25 budget on the tax bill of existing property owners. That is $293 on our average property owner's $12,454 tax bill. The 6 borrowing options being put forth will add $212 more to the FY25 tax bill. Because the Hopkins project would be funded in phases, this proposal's peak year tax impact is $505, tapering off after fiscal year 2028. And Ben, slide 7. While the budget proposal is balanced at this time, some factors merit particular attention as the budget process continues. The filing deadline for new tax appeals is a mailing date of, again, I'm saying this quietly, February 1st. By mid-February, the town will know whether or not Eversource has resumed its tax appeal pattern. Likewise, the governor's budget proposes a net 1.2% increase in local aid. The legislative budget process may provide additional information about possible state revenue. Finally, employee health care cost increases are a significant factor again in this budget cycle. The town is continuing to negotiate this important cost, and more information will be available as the budget process continues. Slide 8. Earlier on, I alluded to the emphasis on long-term forecasting being part of our budget process. Regarding the long-term forecast, slide 8 on the screen shows the summary section from the 5-year forecasting model which was provided as enclosure 2 of the budget memo. The summary shows a growing imbalance between projected sources and uses of funds in future years. This issue has been addressed in several successive appropriation committee reports and has been discussed in prior budget cycles. A burst of revenue from new growth in tax base from legacy farms and from the Eversource LNG recapitalization has supported spending growth over the past several years. With the allowed growth in the tax levy under Proposition 2.5 at about $2.3 million, and new growth expected to be approximately $1.6 million, future growth in operating spending above those levels will be challenging. It's difficult to see how, without another burst of new growth, the town can continue to increase departmental budget at 6% or 8% or more within the tax levy limit. Again, here we're emphasizing the rate of growth of the departmental budgets relative to the growth that we're projecting in our new revenue sources. In closing, this transmittal reflects the start of the public phase of the budget process. Departments are prepared for a close and careful review of this proposal by the Select Board and Appropriation Committee. The budget process has been characterized by the one town, one solution approach. I sincerely appreciate the collaboration and cooperation of all the officials and staff who have contributed to the process. I am very confident that the town is on the path to a workable budget solution for fiscal year 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khumalo. I should start this by saying that I really appreciate the level of conversation and collaboration and happy success that we are recognizing in this year's budget process. I appreciate, Mr. Khumalo, I should say, because I know you won't be here next year at this time, how much as a resident and a taxpayer and also as someone who has served on this board, I really appreciate the level of transparency, but also the sort of the fluency and the success and the stability of this budget process over time that you have brought to this situation. So I just want to say thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions? I'll start with the school committee. And the appropriations committee?
Again, I appreciate getting this budget together so quickly, and it's balanced to boot, and especially the help with consultants, Tim, Todd, and Ben. Definitely appreciate it. Thank you. One question I do have is I notice there's a large amount of free cash used in this budget. Has that free cash been certified at this point?
Mr. Khumalo?
Yeah, good question. We have not received the official certification of free cash. We have submitted it to DOR, and we're expecting a response from DOR in the next days or week.
Thank you. Jean, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, and we've come a long way since September, as we often do, so this is much better news than I anticipated it might be. I do have questions that I'll wait until we meet with the individual departments, but just kind of at a high level, some things that I'm definitely watching and looking for more conversation about are the overlay account and sort of, once we know what's happening this year, do we feel like we can draw down some of that excess that's in there, or sort of what is the longer term plan for that, as well as for stabilization? And I think we talked last year about it would be really helpful to have FY23 actuals in here so that we can I see the budget from FY '24, but we don't know really how everything ended up, and I think, especially when we're trying to do these long-term projections, understanding how close we are to the mark each year is really helpful as a measure. So those are sort of my higher-level comments.
We have our newest member of the Appropriation Committee. Welcome, Mike Erekalian. I don't know, do you have any questions?
I'm honored to be selected for the Appropriation Committee. I'll be downloading the Mr. Kamala's report and studying it over the weekend to get familiar with the format compared to what I'm used to seeing in my government job with other major defense contractors. And I'm sure I'll have some questions as well when we meet the individual departments. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And he just got sworn in this afternoon. So
Congratulations.
welcome. And finally, Bill Flannery is on Zoom. Did you have any questions, Bill?
I do, Mike. Thanks. And Norman, again, thank you for all the detail of this budget. I'm not sure if this question Norman, is for you or Tim, but it's a follow-up to what Mike asked, is that what is the expectation of the free cash? What's the estimated amount you think that will be actually certified? Do you have a number at this point?
We don't have a specific number, but we believe it is going to be more than what was certified last year. Remember last year, we had about $7 million certified as free cash. We're expecting that this year's number may be higher than that amount.
Okay. And based on the pie chart you showed in the second or third slide, I did quick math. It looks like you're accounting for about 5.7 million of that. Is that in the ballpark of what's being used for this FY25 budget?
Correct. And the large chunk of that is driven by the proposed land purchase in the downtown.
Okay. Thank you.
You have Carolyn on there, too.
Oh, is she there, too? Okay. Hey, Caroline. Do you have any questions?
Hi. Yeah, I don't really have a question at this point. I just wanted to know, I'm more interested in seeing how this will be, discussed in detail. It's about the spending increase cap, and how do we, manage the numbers if some department cannot meet that. I guess we will get to it when we have detailed discussions.
Shahidul, do you have any questions?
First of all, I'm excited that it's January 30 and we have a balanced budget. So congratulations, everyone. Thanks to Norman, to Susan, to both the finance committees, finance departments, and all the board members here. This is tremendous. I think we should remember all the fine steps and rinse, repeat next year. And I'm sure we'll be able to continue this success. In general, I think I had a similar question that Mike has, and we'll wait for more elaboration on the free cash and confirmation on that. But I'm hoping it'll be, what we expect and in favorable of the balanced budget that we have. One thing I heard in the last week from our state rep, James Arenadirosa, is that there is some cut that was expected from the governor's recent budget cut initiative, and that might impact us. I don't know, Norman, if you heard anything or had any concrete confirmation on that. To the extent he wasn't sure which areas particularly, but especially the grants that we received last year or for this year that hasn't been spent will be reduced by 50%, was a general comment I heard. So I got a little worried, and I wanted to confirm or understand if you or anyone knows of any adverse impact. Hopefully not. So just to confirm on that. But other than that, I think it's great. We have a balanced budget, and we are seeing better behavior, hopefully, from Eversource, and we will continue on this path. So I have a second question, but Norman, if you want to, or team, if you want to respond to the first.
Yeah, another good question. when the governor announced the 9C cuts, our main concern was twofold. One, whether the 9C cuts were going to impact Chapter 70 and general aid. It was immediately confirmed that there was no intention to impact those components of our local aid. What we have heard is that there could be some cuts to the earmarks, not necessarily the grants that we apply for through the state, but rather the earmarks. So what we've done at a tactical level is to submit the required documents and contracts to the respective state departments that handle the different earmarks that the town has. So far, we have not received any specific indication that any of the town's earmarks have been reduced.
Thank you. That's reassuring, and knock wood, hopefully it'll stay that way, and we'll continue to close on this one. The second question I have is more in general. The gap that we see in the coming years, 1.2 to eventually $4+ million. We had discussed about this, and what are the initiatives or what are the other opportunities or options that we see and we can do? I think it's high time to explore those. And I would like to hear, I know we talked about this and we don't want to spend a lot of time, probably we'll need another session to just focus on that. But Tim or anyone, if you have any thoughts and ideas for remediating those in the near future or suggestions?
So, Madam Chair, Mr. Manan, I would say that the things we would be looking at would be new growth. If additional new growth occurs, it has come in the past when it was not expected, and if it comes again, that would be beneficial to us. Again, we had gotten used to steady increases in local aid from the Commonwealth. The state's revenues are way off this year. If state revenue rebounds and we get back to where we're getting 5, 6, 8% growth in local aid, that would be very helpful. But the structural challenge is there. And when the new growth stops backfilling that need, that's going to be a challenge that's going to involve questions about sustainment of services and adjustments to the tax levy.
Thank you, Tim. That's definitely thoughtful and something we would need to monitor closely. One last question for now is, does this projection take into account obviously the approved capital budgets, but any of the unapproved but on our horizon capital budgets?
This product tonight did not cost out the entire 5-year capital plan, which has shrunk considerably. And in fact, much of the capital plan is tied up in the Hopkins extension. So if you can look at enclosure 6 of the package when you have a chance to do so, that shows you a capital plan that's more restrained than what we were seeing some time ago. The 5-year plan for the general fund is $108 million, and $60 million of it is in the first year. So the out-year plans are softer than what we've seen certainly over the last 2 years, when we've talked about 90+ million for the Elmwood replacement and now 46 for the Hopkins. It looks like that is settling down, at least according to the plan. So I think looking at that plan will be valuable for everybody.
Thank you. That's all encouraging. And again, we want to certainly recognize and appreciate the good news tonight and all the great efforts, but at the same time be thoughtful of the future and start looking at solving those. Thank you. I have nothing further.
I think Shahid will ask most of the questions or comments that I would make too. Just happy to see a balanced budget. We'll be keeping an eye on Eversource, and and local aid and other revenue. And then I just wanted to draw the public's attention to that in the packet, it's feared that we might have to do an operational override in the next couple of years unless we get more revenue than we are expecting. So we just need to all be aware of that. And, you know, if we can get more revenue, that would be great, and we wouldn't have to do that. But it is a real fear.
Mary Jo?
I have a small question. In the slide, you had bring the overlay down to 0. And I know that's Eversource. You can bring Eversource down to 0, but there are a lot of other things in the overlay.
In fact, I think just to be clear on that point through the chair, we have an amount, we have a balance in the overlay right now.
Stays it, okay.
What we are saying in this, what we are saying in this budget is we would normally add to that overlay. This year, we're not adding to the overlay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Through the chair, the balance is $7.5 million right now. And the total appeals we currently have on the ones we've disposed of are 5.7. So there is a $1.8 million excess today. If we had to pay every appeal that's pending today, we'd still have $1.8 million in the overlay account. And we are going to prevail in these other appeals. I'm going to make that prediction.
Me too.
I'll stake my career on it.
Well, thank you, everybody. I wanted to, I just wanted to reiterate that, that this is just one step in a long process. We want to still invite the public to participate either at the Appropriation Committee meetings or publicly at the school committee. I'm sure they'd be welcome, but publicly here, certainly we hope for the public's input. And let this be the first of, an ongoing collaborative effort to manage. We all know that there are stressors coming forward. I was especially pleased to see that we were able to invest in the Town Stabilization Fund and get closer to the target, which is really beneficial in a variety of ways, but primarily also for our borrowing, competitiveness in the borrowing process, which will pay us back richly when we are borrowing very big amounts of money. So congratulations to everybody. There's a lot more to come. The Appropriations Committee has a lot of work to do between now and town meeting, and we hope that we hear from residents with their concerns, their requests, their suggestions, whatever it may be. Yes, Nancy.
I just wanted to make a quick comment, just to thank the town manager, both boards, and also our school, all of our department heads, Dr. Kavanaugh, Mrs. Rothernick, and just the amount of work that has gone into this budget. I know on all sides there were tough decisions made along the way, I know on our end, and I'm sure on the rest of the town's end as well. Responsible stewards of the town's fund. And just also to recognize, I think as Mr. Manon had said, that we are at January 30th. This is, I feel like, the most collaborative budget process that I've been a part of, and to feel like we are in a good spot going forward, like you said, not at the end of the road for this, but we certainly, a lot of work has gone in it to get to this point, and I feel very positive to be here.
I really appreciate it as a taxpayer and as a representative of taxpayers. It's been a really good process, and we really appreciate, especially appreciate our consultants that stepped in to really help us out when we really needed it. So good to see everybody and hear from everybody, and it really makes a difference to have that level of professionalism invested into the process. So thank you all. All right.
So I could entertain a motion in this board to adjourn. All those in favor? We are adjourned at 8:49. Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good night. Thanks for your patience tonight.
Appropriation, like to adjourn?
So moved.
Yes.
Second it.
Yeah, you have to do a roll call vote because you got two people on Zoom. I know, you do. It's the law.
All right, Caroline? Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Bill? Motion to
Yes.
adjourn? Keith? Mike?
Yes.
5-0, motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Kamalo, annual town meeting, item 10.
Yes, in your packet, we, as a reminder, included the town meeting timeline. We also included a listing of potential or prospective town meeting articles. What you will see in that document is a listing of what we call the recurring articles. These are articles that we see at every annual town meeting. They have to do with town finances for the most part, as well as recommendations that come from the Community Preservation Committee. We also have included the non-recurring potential articles. These include the MBTA community zoning, sponsored by the Planning Board. We're also asking the board to consider amending the discharge of water into a public way. This is a general bylaw. We're looking specifically at the level of fines that could be added to this bylaw. But also, we've also listed adopting the specialized energy code. This came from the Sustainable Green Committee. As you know, it was first presented at the special town meeting. And then accepting a gift of land, Whisper Way, the sponsor is the Planning Board. Accepting a gift of land, that's the Elmwood 3 subdivision, Parcel A. The sponsor will be the Select Board. Then land acquisition, including the Colella property, as well as the McDonough property, 0 Spring Street. We also are proposing that the board consider property disposition. This is a town-owned parcel, L35-131-0 and L35-136-0. It's an issue that we brought to the board's attention, I believe, in the last 4 or 6 weeks. And then permanent easement, Lake Maspinock Dam operations and maintenance. The sponsor is the Director of Public Works and the town manager. And then amending the charter, again, simply correcting a scrivener's error referencing with regard to the reference in section 3(1)D. Currently, we reference chapter 90, section 97. Instead, it should be 97A. And this is in relation to the Strong's Chief Statute. Legislative petition, allow lawful residents who are not U.S. citizens to vote in local elections and at town meetings. Another legislative petition, senior tax exemption for school building project costs. And then we are also, as a placeholder, asking that the board include the MWRA connection-related matters. Again, so you see a mixture of recurring articles and then non-recurring articles, as well as in that group we have citizen petitions, as well as proposals from town departments, as well as the select board.
Some of them have check marks.
Oh, because another committee.
They've been submitted.
Yeah.
Well, there's all kinds of other committees, right?
Yeah.
Are they all, like
Well,
this
maybe
one?
CBC has already voted to submit those?
I don't know, what do the check marks mean?
Someone has submitted the article already.
So has submitted the article already? So the others are just placeholders?
At this point.
At this point, I see, okay, so we
Anticipate.
actually have the,
Yeah,
We
thank
could
you.
vote to submit them tonight, I think.
And I just wanted to note that there was an additional potential article in what we distributed today for leasing town land on Clinton Street for a cell tower.
That's the one that's
That
in
was
blue?
what we handed out this evening.
Oh, I see.
In blue.
Oh.
And who's the sponsor for that? Sorry, it's not.
Doesn't have one.
Oh.
It could be us.
It could be you.
Could be us.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So let me just start with Shahidul. Do you have any questions on the potential articles?
I do. I'm just thinking in which order. So one is, I wanted to understand a little more about the charter amendment
Yep,
for police chief.
yep.
And also, I think for the lawful residents related voting or local voting bill, the last time we heard from the town clerk some concerns. So I wanted to, if he's online, let him speak to his concerns. And I actually connected with him afterwards, and he also put forward some ideas. For that one, I think it's something we want to hear from stakeholders and from him if he's here. And later we can discuss a little bit. But I also was going to check, did we get to talk to the town council on these, or these are very preliminary stage discussion now? Okay, thank you. Yeah.
The amendment to the charter to correct the statutory reference to Section 3-1D to Mass General Law C in Chapter 41, Section 97A, not Section 97, is to confirm the police chief's status as a strong chief. I understand that to be an administrative correction. I actually remember following the town charter when it was originally proposed. It was decided that it would be a strong chief, and I think, does the language support that, or does the language not support that, and it's only referencing the Mass General Law chapter?
In fact, through the chair, I can answer that question. I've looked at this issue for several years. The police chief in Hopkinton has always been a strong chief. But in the last charter review process, a Scrivener's error resulted in the charter citing to Section 97. And Section 97 is the weak chief statute, and not 97A, which is the strong chief statute. The error was dropping the A at the end of the statutory reference. In fact, I can share with the board a copy of a section from the Charter Review Public Forum, where it was clearly stated that the police chief would be a strong chief. And in fact, in my historical review of the town's records, this discussion goes all the way back to 1957. What was being discussed then was that, yes, the town has a strong chief, but what we didn't do was to then adopt the necessary statute that will allow for that to happen. However, when the first charter was done, it clearly references a strong chief. And what is unfortunate at that point is that even at that point, the town did not adopt the necessary legislation to allow that to happen. And so in 2010, the town did that. Town meeting approved the strong chief statute. And then unfortunately, when we did the charter review in 2017, there was this error where the A was dropped from the 97. So in summary, the police chief in Hopkinton has always been a strong chief.
Thank you. Yep. And since our chief is here, would you like to comment on anything on this?
Does this impact the fire chief too? Because I think they're mentioned in the same line, no?
Yeah, hold on one second,
Yeah.
but we'll definitely ask that question.
Yeah.
In my extensive preparation for my remarks, I can speak a little bit to the fire chief as well. So when you hear strong and weak chief, a lot of times you might bundle the two together. They're similar, but not the same. Strong police chief has ability to write policies that are then run by the select board. The responsibility of the select board to write policy is greater with the weak chief. the strong fire chief can hire, promote, and give discipline greater than the police chief. The statute of the strong police chief does not allow for those actions. As a strong police chief, you cannot hire, promote, or discipline beyond 5 days. So even as a strong chief. So that's the beginning of the discussion of the differences. Specifically, most predominantly relates to creation of policy.
Okay, Amy, do you have any questions?
I don't think I do. I appreciate the explanation. The public seems really confused about this, so the more documents that we can get out about it, I think would be helpful. And Norman had some references from the previous charter review, but that would be helpful for people to see.
Through the chair, thank you.
Thank you. Mary Jo?
No, I don't have any questions on it. I know.
Did you want to go, were you wanting to say something again?
No, I said what Amy proposed, that's a good idea.
Yeah, no, I agree. The more information, the better. Okay, and then Connor is on Zoom.
Yes.
Do you want to liven him up about the legislative petition, I'm sorry, language.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Connor.
Excellent. You're able to hear me. Sorry I couldn't be in there tonight. I had to run home and get the dog out. You heard a bit from me last time that you had your meeting. I don't want to really rehash a lot of that. I think it's just important that if we're going to have the discussion on this, that we loop in election officials in the town that are hopefully going to be able to implement this. I also think that we should really be cautious if we're trying to put this forward, especially with the record of it not being accepted by the legislature for other communities. Part of that, the reason I say to pause with that, is because it gives us less knowns when it comes to when this might actually come into effect, if at all. So if it comes into effect when we're not expecting it because they suddenly start pushing them through, we might not have time to properly budget and plan for the process, versus if we're putting it through on the concept purely that they aren't going to get to it at some point, then I feel like we're giving a lot of false hope to a lot of residents. And I would really caution against that, because it's going to cause just additional confusion. I think in general, I think this is a fine conversation to have. I just think it's a little premature to be putting it to town meeting, because when town meeting gets it, it's because those of us in the boards and committees and community leaders have taken a look at it and can say with some degree of certainty, we would recommend this move. We think it would make the town better. And right now, I just don't think this is ready for that. I'm more than happy to continue the dialogues on it and answer any questions that any members might have. I'm also available in my office during the day. I always make time if members have questions for me whenever. Shah Abdul, as he said, he reached out to me and asked if we could grab a coffee on the weekend, and we had a chance to talk through some of the concerns that I had with it, as well as, some other potential methods that might be more realistic for achieving the goal of increasing the voice of non-citizen residents that live in our community. And a few of the things that I had mentioned, Shadul, that we had come up with talking about this in my office was the concept of potentially looking at non-citizen residents being given the ability to speak and ask questions at town meeting. That's one where we can actually do it with a bylaw change. We have the electronic voting system now, which allows us to track that only voters are actually voting. Another would be, we have some bylaws that are somewhat restrictive on a few of our committees that don't allow non-voters to be members. I think doing away with some of those restrictions could assist us so that we give a chance for those voices to really be heard in the decision-making process. And then one last one is even just looking at for elected boards that can only have registered voters and citizens on them, looking at ways that we could potentially have, appointed liaisons, like we have board members who are liaisons to other departments that might be able to help represent some of the voices of non-citizen residents and how it impacts them. I think we can have a whole bunch of really creative solutions, and I really do look forward to talking with all of you about how we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I did bring this forward, and I really appreciate, Connor, that you have taken the time to look at this more fully, and I really look forward to talking with you myself personally, but also inviting residents to come forward. I hope that we keep this as a potential placeholder so that we can really, with purpose, talk through this idea. I especially appreciate some of your suggestions for creative solutions. I will say, for me personally, this is an issue of access and equity, and I take that really seriously. I think opening up this conversation and opening up the possibility of non-resident citizens to fully exercise the same rights that we have in local decisions, where they pay the same kind of taxes that we pay, and they care about the school performance and the police performance and the town performance the same way that we do, is in full keeping with our charter that has us striving to be a welcoming community. So I really hope that we keep this. I understand that it may be too soon. I sort of fully embrace that this is a big, complicated conversation, but I also candidly want to just say that it excites me that we're having it. I never thought of this for a very long time, and I kind of feel like it was one of those sort of implicit bias things for me. It just was like, as soon as I saw it, and I talked to friends in town that fall into this category, I saw the issue just differently and more clearly. And I really hope that we take the time to build out this conversation and at least consider keeping it on the annual town meeting warrant so that we can have this conversation and potentially vote on it this year. And also potentially I'm open to, building out the conversation and also waiting for next year if that's what turns out to be the best thing to do.
Well, I don't feel that way. I would like not to have it on town meeting this year and put some more time and effort into it. I think that voting is a right of the U.S. citizenship, and I would be willing to look at somebody who had a path to citizenship and who was actually thinking of remaining in this country, but I don't really think I want to see people who are loyal to somewhere else and wanting to go back to somewhere else and are here for a specific time on a green card, and then they're headed away. And they'll be making decisions on our future, because town meeting does make decisions on the future of the town, and voting makes decisions many times on the future of the country. And if you're not going to stay here and work for that future, then you shouldn't be voting. I think I'm willing, like I said, if anybody's on a path to citizenship and is wanting to stay here and permanently, then I would look at that more closely. But just because they're living here, no, I can't say you should make decisions about our future.
So can I just ask Mary Jo, clarify, are you open to some of Connor's ideas where a bylaw change would allow them to at least speak at town meeting? Alternates like that?
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, anybody can speak. I'm not against free speech. I'm not against anything, but this is such a right and such a privilege, an American right and privilege. And I want loyal American citizens voting on my future. My mother's an immigrant, so my families are immigrants. So I'm not at all against immigration, but they became citizens in order to vote. And
Here, Joe. I think we're all in that category. We're all immigrants.
We all represent someplace, yeah.
And I think it doesn't say this exactly here, but I thought the intention was lawful permanent residents, people who have the right to stay permanently, they just are waiting until they can be a citizen. I think that was the intention.
No, they're
Not people. Yes. Well, that's the intention. It could be worded that way, I think. But anyway, I can see both sides here. I'm certainly open to if we wanted to make it, what do you call it, like a non-binding article, because I do agree it would be better if all the towns did it at once, so that the legislature had a clear way that everybody was going to do it consistently from town to town. And I think the town does want to test the temperature to see how everyone feels about it. So I support having some kind of article either this year or next year. And I am open to Connor's suggestions of broadening what non-citizens can do until they have a chance to become a citizen.
Some of the boards and panels and things, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all the comments. I appreciate that. I think I'm hearing both sides, and I understand and agree with pretty much all that everyone is saying, right? I think the challenge we are trying to solve, or this article is trying to solve, is making sure the voice is heard from our neighbors, from the residents who are paying taxes, and they have a part in the process, right? And fully appreciate Mary Jo's comments on citizenship as well. And given that, my thoughts are, first of all, I do want to empathize with, I think, the philosophy of this, or the spirit of this warrant that you mentioned. But I am thinking we want to be pragmatic and doing something that solves the problem of the voice. And I like Connor's idea of, having that voice in the town meeting to begin with. And the other thing I also like is that this is complicated and sensitive because of so many, major fundamental things are involved. The voice, the equity, as well as the citizenship, the rights, the loyalty to the country, because of the structure that we have. So I would give it more time and welcome all discussions from everyone through public forums, through our thoughtful process. And I need to process it myself as well and look at what are the pragmatic options, as well as honoring the sentiments and the foundations of our nation and value system. So my thinking would be to go with the ones that immediately helps address some of the voice or helps open up rights to some of the voice. Speaking in the town meeting, maybe having more participation in some of the committees in non-voting way, if that makes sense, and then open up the forum for next year with public forums, talking to the citizens and talking to the people who are bringing this up or who are suffering or feeling, in some ways their voice needs to be emboldened, and come up with something that's pragmatic and that works for everyone. And I also noted Connor's comments that this has been in the works from many other towns, but because of legal and other reasons hasn't gone to a practical way. So I just want to be cognizant of that too. We want to do something that's practical and works for everyone.
So can I ask a question? If we had like a set of placeholders so that we could have this whole conversation, would you support that? So that we can potentially have the whole conversation? We can find out what a lot of towns have gone before us. We're not at the tip of the spear. We're sort of close to the tip of the spear, but we're not at the tip of the spear. So this isn't new territory. The legislature hasn't taken it up. That's true, but I think that I think it's possible for us to have a really respectful, robust conversation. And maybe over the next couple of months, we decide that, yeah, we'll stick with one or we'll stick with the other. But I'd like to keep the option open so people can participate and give us their feedback. And it's not just 2 or 3 or 4 of us deciding. Is that something you would support?
I think that makes sense. And we can start with, some of the tangible ones.
I mean, keeping them for this year, the tiers.
Oh, I see.
So that
Could
we
we
could.
keep it as two, one, the legislative petition, which we might still discuss, and a second one that might be bylaw changes?
Yeah, is that something?
And we could remove them later if we change our mind.
That's right. It's a placeholder.
Yeah.
We have to vote tonight to have a placeholder. So I just want to keep the conversation viable if that's amenable.
I see. I'm thinking I'm okay with the placeholder, but here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of the bat is we want to articulate the participation in the town meeting as a more concrete proposal, and maybe participation in the committees in non-voting way. Those are more tangible, immediate that I think we can hear and discuss and put on the vote. And for the larger voting right, we may want to have that discussion to start or kick off that discussion to hear from the town meeting and all the town residents, citizens.
So do you mean not put that one on the?
Right, yeah, I'm thinking it's a little premature to put it in there, and it may not serve our overall kind of purpose. I'm just worried that it's not mature enough as a proposal, and we haven't heard and discussed and processed it enough.
Yeah, we haven't discussed any of them. None of them are
Right.
mature proposals. I'd like to keep the option open for the discussion, and I'm asking respectfully if you can support that.
But to your point, if we keep those others in more concrete manner, that will give us the option for discussing the potential that we are talking about. What I wouldn't want is jump into something that can create controversy and defeats the main goal that we have before we actually know what are the legal and what are the overall implications of this and practical aspect of it. I just don't want to do something symbolic. I want to do something that's pragmatic and that serves and addresses the key concern of the voice, and also be respectful of the citizenship question, because that is a valid question as well, very much valid. So how do we find the ground where we can be respectful and empathize with the voice and give the voice, but not
Part of the voice, just to be clear. It'll be part of the voice.
Right, no, I understand. And again, I'm still processing it, and I think it needs more discussion and more research and analysis from my end as well, and I'm sure a lot may feel that way. That's why I'm hesitant to put it exactly, and then the other thing is if it creates the controversy and gets defeated, then it kind of defeats the purpose. So I don't want to rush it without kind of understanding the overall implication.
You think more likely to fail if we rush it, and if more likely to
Right.
be successful if we wait? Is that what you're?
I think so, and get the understanding for ourselves, understanding for the town residents and citizens, and hear their voice, and then come up with something that is more practical, or everyone is ready by then. If it comes back to this, that hey, this is the way, that then it'll be a better time and more matured conversation by then. Just don't want to rush it and create misunderstanding across.
Yeah,
So
I
we've
think
got 4 of us, we might have a tie.
I know, we might have a time across the board.
If I may,
Yes, please.
I just want to point out that in terms of the process, the board has until April 16th to sign the warrant.
So we could remove it
So
before
any
then.
time- Exactly. Anytime between now and April 16th, the board will have ample opportunity to decide how to move this forward or how to not move this forward.
So can I ask a clarifying question? Would that include interim steps, or should we suggest placeholders for the interim steps as well?
I think they have to be separate because a
That's what
legislative
I'm
petition is
thinking.
different than a bylaw change.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too.
We would have to have a hearing on a bylaw change, right?
That would actually be helpful as well. So the bylaw change would be for what?
So, and I'm not sure if it's the bylaws or charters that say who can speak at town meeting, or does it say?
It's in the bylaw.
That would be the bylaw.
Change for speaking at town meeting?
But if we wanted to change to allow people to serve on committees, I think some committees are defined in the charter.
I think the one that I was referring to, there's some bylaws that refer to some committees, such as appropriation, that one has.
And capital improvements, I believe, also. So those are both bylaw changes? Those would both be bylaw changes rather than a charter change.
So allowing folks to serve on appointed boards and committees, we believe is a bylaw change?
There's a few committees where that's called out.
Okay, so most committees, it's not called out. I see, okay.
If we just formed them on our own. So I guess I would propose adding a placeholder article for a bylaw change to allow more participation by non-citizen lawful permanent residents.
Yeah, I would as well, but I support, one of the reasons that I think it might be especially attractive, I'm going to tell you honestly, I don't really like iterative steps to equity. I think that equity and accessibility is its own issue. But if we proposed the two ideas for bylaw changes and held on to the legislative petition, we would have an opportunity, we would be mandated to have a public hearing. We would have an opportunity to have a preview of what folks are thinking before town meeting.
Yes, I just think it's, another 2-3 months, and we have so many others that may not get enough time to really.
We have a lot going on.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to rush it from that end. And great conversation. Thanks for bringing it up. Great, points from both sides. But I think it needs more time.
So what is the board's position on the legislative petition to allow residents? I'm a yes.
And I would be a yes, knowing that we could remove it before April 6th if we felt now was not the right
April
time.
16th, I think. Is that right? April 6th? April 16th.
16th? Oh,
I know Mary Jo's position.
I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's premature.
But can I make a motion to add, to add an article that would, for a bylaw change that would allow greater participation by lawful permanent residents in our committees and town meetings?
If we could take a deep dive into the bylaw and look for other references that might need to be changed.
Let's keep a placeholder now, and with these, and I agree, Amy, I think that one we can articulate appropriately, talking to town council or reconciling with the town charter and come up with some verbiage. So for now, how do we keep it as placeholder?
Yeah, I think that's what I said was a
Placeholder
Yeah.
to make changes to the bylaw to allow greater participation at town meeting and on committees at this point.
And then we'd have to have a hearing, like we do for all general bylaws. People would come.
Right.
And we'll research what those changes might be and present them to you.
Does anyone else want a second? Anyone?
A second?
So Mary Jo, how do you feel?
I don't know how I feel yet. I mean, about town meeting, I think anybody ought to be able to stand up and say their piece at town meeting. But voting, that's still a different thing for me.
This is for a bylaw change to allow folks who are lawful permanent, lawful permanent residents but non-US citizens to speak at town meeting.
And serve on committees.
And serve on boards.
Speak at town meeting.
Speak at town meeting.
Speak at town meeting, yeah, okay, I'd be with that, I'm okay with that. And serve on boards, but.
Yeah, I will be marked as present, not voting.
Voting's a different
I'm
thing.
rather ethically opposed to half-assing equity, actually. Okay.
Okay, and we have to, all these other articles we need to put into the warrant.
We can do the consent agenda?
No, we got to do all the rest of the articles. So what is the,
Okay.
what is the, so you move the board, submit the articles.
Into the warrant.
Is it just the, it's not just the highlighted ones?
Just highlighted?
Is it just the highlighted ones?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll accept a motion to, for the board to submit the articles to the 2024 annual town meeting warrant without the one we just discussed, to allow lawful residents who are not U.S. citizens to vote in local elections at town meeting, and also to add the 2 bylaw changes we just discussed.
Do we need to read them out?
We don't need to read them all out, do we?
No. Okay, so the ones highlighted in yellow, except.
And blue.
In blue, yeah.
Highlighted. Yeah.
Where are you seeing this? Sorry.
On the, it's in paper form for you in your stack.
Oh.
I sort of detailed it out, but you can go, I can make the motion.
All right, I'll make a motion to submit the articles as discussed into the town meeting warrant.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, yeah, sorry.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
And if we change our mind, we can still remove them in April. if needed.
Oh, let's hope we don't have to do that.
Well, sometimes things aren't.
I know.
Land purchases
I
times
know.
aren't ready.
I know. Okay. So I would propose that we move the transition plan to next week, but let me just tell you, we have had robust conversations. I have, we have a good situation here in town, and the Personnel Committee has also offered to support the process. So we can talk about it tonight, we're certainly prepared to, or we can talk about it on Tuesday, next week. It's a
I think
week.
it would be better to wait, given the hour.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I
Is that
think so.
okay? Is that okay, Mr. Connell and Mrs. Fletcher? Okay. I would also propose that we move the strategic planning process forward 1 week. All right.
Yeah.
I would like to just make sure we kick off the process. We have Mrs. Merrill here to help us and the chief. The process to open up the hiring process for the deputy police chief. So if you would come forward, that would be great. Thank you for staying. It's late and everybody's patience. So we wanted the position of deputy chief is clearly open, and we would like to make some progress on that for you, chief. Get some additional resources in the building. And we want ask Mrs. Merrill to sort of, we just went through a process similar to this for the fire chief, but to outline the HR process that we would go through.
Okay, sure. Through the chair, I looked at what the process was most recently when this position was last filled. And in 2021, August of 2021, the position was posted internally to all employees for a period of time and open to internal applicants. Since that time, we have posted internally and externally almost all positions. This particular position is under the salary administration plan, so it is not bound by the collective bargaining agreement or the police departmental promotional process. So, there are options available. We can post internally and externally, as we have been doing. We can post internally only, although that has not been our most recent process. HR can drive the process by using broadly advertising, and as we typically do. Another option is to use a search firm, as you mentioned, as we did with the fire chief search. Many communities manage the process through an assessment center, which is an option. We haven't traditionally done that for police positions here, but we have on the fire side, and that is something many departments do use. Similar to, again, what we did with the fire chief search. My understanding is it can be costly if you use a search firm to open it up both internally and externally, because candidates will often use that process as sort of an opportunity to get themselves out there and practice and get the experience, and you pay for that. So,
Assessment center.
yeah. So there are options available, I guess is what I would report.
Thank you. Chief?
It's a broad topic. I'm not sure where to begin. I think as the chief of the police department, I would like to recognize the work of the members within the department. As you know, we have gaps in the command staff, and I just want to recognize the work of the sergeants. They have been pedaled to the metal, especially in the past 6 or 7 months. They work to fill voids. They're doing learning work that they did not know 6 or 7 months ago. They're performing duties that they were not asked to perform 6 or 7 months ago, and really have been the driving force to keeping the organization moving forward and meeting our objectives and making sure that the community is directly served. So in recognition of that, I wanted to take a moment to express my gratitude for all their hard work. And I think you have a lot of potential really strong candidates within the sergeant pool.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think my position has been pretty openly understood. I always like a competitive process. I was really gratified by the process that we went through for the fire chief. And I also always expect our internal candidates to be extremely competitive. I appreciate all the options. The assessment center was something that was new to me. When we did that, just for the benefit of the board, when we did that with the fire chief search, you can select how many people go through. So there's a way to manage. You're putting people forward. So there's a way to manage that expense. And at any rate, I thought the process was extremely beneficial for the town. It was very well done. We got really competitive candidates, and again, our internal candidate obviously performed exceptionally well. So I would be, personally, I would advocate for a competitive process, posting both internally and externally. If the board supported it, I think it's very helpful to have a professional search committee for a position like this. But we certainly have the professional ability in-house to do that search if we didn't want to do it that way. So, Shahadu?
Yeah, I think it's always good to make it competitive and have it, open internally, externally. I'm also thinking two things. One is that how much is it going to cost if we do external, go through the external recruitment or recruiting firm process?
Using a search firm as we
A
did.
search firm and
Yeah.
recruiting.
The town manager may recall exactly what the cost was that we spent for that search. I don't recall what the figure was.
I mean, that's not the
I
biggest.
can get that information to you.
Sure, yeah, that's not the biggest concern, but it's a data point.
Yeah, it's a data point.
I do like the idea of posting it internally and externally. I'm a little on the fence about whether we hire an outside firm for an added expense or not.
I have a question. Do we still have the municipal bulletin? We used to get them all the time here. They were in our, they're not printing them anymore, or we're just not getting them?
I don't see those anymore.
Huh?
I haven't seen those in quite a while.
No, in a number of months, yeah. And, because that's where I used to see all these advertisements.
Oh, you're talking about the MMA news?
Yeah, that's,
It's electronic.
yeah, they have the
Oh,
beacon.
it's only electronic.
Yeah,
Well, I definitely would like to see it advertised in there.
Yeah, we post all of our positions through the Mass Municipal Association. And then we have a whole host of diversity sites that we post with. We develop a budget, we work with the chief and get it out there broadly.
Mr. Capello, do you have the figures for the cost for the deputy, for the fire chief search?
Oh, Carrie might know.
Yes. Mike. Yes. Approximately 13 to 15,000. 13.13 to 15.15.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? So do we want to decide on I think we've decided that we want to post it competitively, externally and internally. Do you feel prepared to discuss or decide on the search? It's okay if we don't, or we do. We do that for the town manager. We certainly would do it for a chief or position, but open to the discussion. The one thing that I had never heard of the assessment center before, and for me, there was some real value in practical exercises that were conducted. They were conducted by professionals in the world and real life circumstances and comparative analysis among the candidates. I thought it was my first exposure to it. I thought it was very helpful, but.
No, I think, given the mission or the goal, 13, 15K is something I wouldn't make a decision criteria particularly for this, because I think it weighs in a lot more. And as we discussed, making it competitive and internal, external will only, help us find the best candidates. So I'm all for that. And I also want to, just express that we have our full confidence in our department, and we want to promote from within if that's the candidate we come up to be most competitive. And this is a good, open field process that emboldens, I think, the staff or the people we have. So I'm all for it.
And just to be clear, for also the
Also
professional
hiring
search?
a recruiting firm.
Amy?
Yeah, that's fine with me, and I don't want to delay this. I want us to get.
Yeah.
No, I want to get it going as soon as possible. Yeah.
Do we need a vote, or is that consensus plenty to get us started, Mr. Kamalo?
A vote would be helpful.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to have a competitive external and internal search utilizing a professional search organization for police searches that includes an assessment center component.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, thank you. I'm looking forward to, go ahead.
If I could, I'd just like to thank the board for helping to move this promotion and the lieutenant promotion forward. As a matter of update, I've been working with Ms. Merrill to work on the lieutenant's process and hope to be coming forward with an update on that. So thank you. We're looking forward to moving forward.
Good. When do you think you might have candidates? What is the broad timeline for candidates for selection?
So the broad timeline, we have some work to do as part of the, and I don't want to speak to the periodic review of job postings. It's been a period of time since the job posting, and one of the things we need to do is look at the job description and staying consistent with the human resources practices.
I think reasonably quickly we can get it posted. We've reviewed the promotional process. We know what needs to happen, the order things need to happen, and it's very laid out, clearly laid out. So I don't expect that it should take too long to get it posted and the process moving.
Great.
That'd be great, yeah.
And there's kudos to Director Casey. A lot of the groundwork was done by her in preparation for this upcoming process prior to her, long before her leaving the community.
I know you said you had a few who are going to be taking exams for promotion shortly. Is that happening?
We need to work through the sergeants, the current sergeant list.
Yeah.
Then I'll post the sergeant's exam. They have a period of time to study, but shortly after we work through the sergeant's list, I'll post the exam, and it'll all flow out from there in accordance with the contract.
So the lieutenants don't need to take a test, or they do take an exam? The candidates for lieutenant, they don't?
The lieutenant process is outlined in a policy that kind of mirrors the sergeant's process, and there is no exam. There's an interview, structured interview which will be guided by Human Resources with enumerated question topics. Scoring metrics will be decided. That will come to me only after I've done my own evaluation, which has already been designed with Director Casey, and we'll review it, of course. Once I submit my evaluation, then I get the results from the interview process, and that's how the scoring metrics is done.
And just in general, what is the timeline horizon from posting to hiring on an average you're anticipating? Tough question.
So it's 10 days for the posting to stand.
The posting has to be, per the charter, at least 10 days publicly posted and 17 days before you can extend an offer. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on in between there. So we typically like to post a little bit longer than that to give folks a chance to, see the advertisement and apply. I would say roughly 2 months if all things go smoothly.
That would be great.
But it can be longer, depending.
Yep.
Great. Thank you for the update. Thank you so much, and thanks for your patience waiting. It's been a long day for everyone.
Well, thank you for helping us move this forward.
Thank you.
All right, I think the annual report is due, so we don't have any choice.
Is it due? Okay, just more look. Is there anything else we can? It's not hard. Sorry, I skimmed it.
Did everybody have a chance to review the annual report that we're putting forward that was kindly drafted for us?
I did not, no.
Okay.
And by the way, I didn't get all the attachments for some reason. I can check with Elaine later.
Some of them are links within the agenda, or is that not?
Yeah, it took me to one link and then didn't show the other documents.
Was that the budget one?
There was budget one and then the town
This one
report.
too?
This
Okay,
one too.
yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this, Mrs. Lazarus. We just voted to put the town reports on there. If we discuss the select board, the annual report next week, are we still good?
Does it impact your timeline adversely?
Or if we notice the typo, could we fix it later?
We can accommodate.
That is really, really fabulous. So that's amazing. So we're gonna move the annual report to next week, next Tuesday, and everybody is obligated to go ahead and give it a look-see. Okay. Let's move forward to the town manager's report, Mr. Khumalo.
Yes, through the chair, I included the update from the town engineer and project specialist, Dave Del Torio and Michelle Maddock, respectively, on the Main Street Corridor project. The discussion point for us right now is that we're hearing from Amarillo that they are unable to perform any substantial work until we resolve the transformer supply issue. However, what we're trying to do now is to see if any work can be done on the western portion of the corridor project. because that portion will not entail undergrounding. And then in terms of PFAS, I think as you have seen the images, the vessels are in, and the project is inching forward, and we hope to commission the project as projected by May 2024. MWRA, we have now scheduled a meeting with DCR. I believe it's in the first week in March. There was a request that we include staffing updates. As you can see, and as the board has been working so hard, payroll manager filled, assistant building inspector zoning enforcement offer pending, administrative assistant in the land use interviews are in progress, senior accounting manager offer accepted, facilities manager met the candidate this evening, confirmed their appointment, treasurer collector offer pending, chief financial officer, we've re-advertised. We are having an interview tomorrow morning. Human Resources Director, we're now scheduling interviews. Police officers, we have 6 candidates in the pre-employment phase. Water and Sewer Assistant Manager, we are going through the interviews. Reference Technology Librarian, appointed tonight. And then Program Coordinator, Summer Supervisor, Parks and Recreation, we're doing the final round of interviews. So clearly, positions that were vacant a few weeks ago, we are now almost 95% filled.
Wow. That's really, I really appreciate this update. This is really good to see. And beyond that, really appreciate the pace that HR and also the town. I don't know if, when we think about all of these positions being filled and all the interviews that means. I know that I've called Mrs. Lazarus a couple times and she's like, yeah, no, I got interviews like all day. Really great work for the town by all the contributing parties, because this doesn't happen without a lot of support from a lot of department heads and certainly the HR department. So
yeah, I'm happy to hear that too. And this is very encouraging, so keep up the good work. And I was wondering, the numbers and all that you mentioned, it's not in the meeting package. Is that something we can include?
What is it? What's not in?
These metrics that Norman just mentioned?
It is. It is.
Oh, which page?
Let's see, page
Okay, then.
68 of the PDF.
Okay, I see it. Thank you. So keep up the good work, and I think hopefully we'll get more positions filled, especially the critical ones soon. But I'm happy that we are kicking off many and having a lot of traction. One other question in general, I was wondering, Norman, if you can help. In the last 2-3 years, just top of your head, how many have we hired, how many resigned, and how many retired? If you can share those numbers, I think that'll give a picture that many may have misinformed concerns about, or the right concern. I don't know. The concern that I'm talking about is that, people are leaving and we are going short on our hands. I know in the top tier, we discussed some of the critical ones that retired recently, and we are addressing those. I also want to see just check the pulse on overall our town employment, hiring and retirement result.
Good question. Easy to answer because the HR department annual reports always have those numbers. So we will forward them to you tomorrow.
Okay, that'll be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Amy, do you have any questions?
For the town manager report, I just wanted to draw attention to they were looking at the traffic signals at Route 85, 135, and they had been running on a time cycle instead of the camera system that they're supposed to use.
Yeah.
And they're in progress with working on that, it sounds like. But that's why,
Yes.
that's why there have been more backups than there should be, I guess. And then we had this, an email from a resident again about the crosswalk, particularly in front of Town Hall. There are the crosswalk signs, but there's not a flashing beacons anymore. And is there anything else we can do temporarily Since seeing as we're going to have to wait for the transformers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, in fact, Dave has coordinated a response by the entire team. If it's okay with the board, we can share that with you tomorrow morning.
That would be great. Because we go to meetings at town hall at night and we cross the street. It's very dangerous.
With snow and everything, it
With the
gets
snow makes it
really
worse, yeah.
challenging.
All right, I know we have one more thing. I jumped the gun on questions, but Mary Jo, any questions on
No,
what
I'm
we
all
talked
right.
about so far? All right, there's one more item, I think, Mr. Kamalo.
Yes, Elmwood 3 donation agreement. I'm respectfully requesting the select board authorize the town manager and town council to execute a donation agreement concerning the donation of parcels A and Lot E shown on the plan that was included in the packet. As you may know, in fact, one of those two parcels was... Let me take a step back. One of those two parcels, namely Lot E, was brought forward to the last annual town meeting, and the board did receive the authorization to accept that gift. So basically, it's if the board is inclined to authorize the town manager to work with town council to execute this agreement, we will hold the two in escrow. However, we will have to bring parcel A to town meetings as a gift.
And we put that in the warrant already?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, it's in the warrant. Yeah.
Okay. So
Any questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I've seen pictures of the filter tanks at I think it's well 6. I'm not sure which well, and they're there. Who and what can drink the water now?
You're not online
They'll be online in May.
No, I'm not online. Oh, it's not online. Okay.
It's not online.
That's what I'm wondering. When is it going to be online?
May. May, we hope and pray. Everybody needs to light some incense, do some chanting.
So
Any questions on the property?
I would move to authorize the town manager and town council to execute a donation agreement concerning the donation of parcel A and Lot E in the Elmwood 3 subdivision.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Awesome. Is that it, Mr. Kamalo, for the town manager's report?
That's it for now until next week.
Until next week.
All right.
So I think, can we postpone liaison report? Is there anything super pressing, or we can do it next week?
I think it can wait till next week.
Anything
I'm okay
super?
with next week,
Next
yeah.
week? Okay. So let's do the consent agenda, and I think we made it through what we needed to make it through, but somebody tell me if I'm missing something. So the consent agenda includes minutes from January 2nd, 9, and 11, and it includes a marathon fund request to award $1,000 for the parents of the Hopkinton High School seniors for the purpose of hiring a photographer at the senior celebration dinner to be held May 21st, 2024 at Gillette, accepting a donation from a grant from the Friends of Hopkinton Seniors, Inc. to the town of Hopkinton in the amount of $25,000 for the Senior Services Program account. Gosh, say that 6 times fast. For programming at the Hopkinton Senior Center, and then to accept a resignation with regrets and appreciation of John Cardillo from the Hopkinton Cultural Council.
Did you have a question?
No, I don't really have any questions on any, well, I did on the marathon fund request. They gave us $1,000. Were they or were they not supposed to tell us what the 3 bids are?
Or are they just supposed to get bids?
I don't remember.
They are
They're supposed
supposed
to
to
just
tell-
let us know that they were presented with 3 bids.
Yes, there's some process that they are supposed to go through. Did we review that? Do we know? Oh, there it
I
is.
don't know if we reviewed it with them. We got this tonight.
Yeah, no, it's a good catch, Mary Jo. We should ask if they got 3 bids, or if that, it's not the marathon committee necessarily, it would be the applicants might need to get 3 bids.
Yeah,
or whatever.
they do, but they, yeah.
Well, it's not.
I don't know, it's just a question that
It's not until May. I don't know if we'd be delaying anything.
Okay.
I don't know.
And
It's probably fine.
I just wanted to make a comment. I want to thank Friends of the Hopkinton Seniors for their grant very much, and I want to thank John Cardulo for his time served. Thank him very much.
Yeah, that's an amazing grant, for sure.
Yeah, it's an amazing grant, and they should get some recognition for it, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if I'm, go ahead.
Oh, we also have a resignation of David Dolomar in our correspondence. Is that enough of an announcement that it can be posted?
Position, so
So can it now be posted because we've mentioned it?
they made an announcement at their meeting.
Oh, it has to be announced at the library meeting, not our meeting? Okay.
Okay.
Yep. But good question, thank you. All right, so if I'm understanding correctly, we're going to remove B and ask the Marathon Fund Committee to ask the parents of the seniors to provide the three estimates. So with that, we would be voting on A, the minutes, C, the accepting the donation, and D, the resignation.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was a long meeting, but we got a lot done. Just double check me and make sure we didn't miss any. Oh, we didn't do the change of manager for Saddle Hill. Is that going to be a big deal, or we'll do it next week?
Nobody came from Saddle Hill, and we thought they were going to.
It's the manager change. Do it
Next
quickly.
week.
Or next week, okay.
They're not here.
Yeah.
Nobody showed up.
But I'm thinking it's only a manager change, not procedure. But it would be good to have.
Yeah, we're meeting again Monday, so thank
Yeah.
goodness. Although, okay, so
Every Tuesday this month.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move the motion to
Second.
adjourn.
Oh.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank goodness. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.